We are happy to race the next days, and we are looking forward to the World Championship and give it all.
Everyone is super friendly. We can race in great conditions.
Thank you, Oman Sail, for bringing this event to Oman.
Good luck for everyone for this week.
Good morning and welcome from sunny, beautiful Oman. We have the final day in store of the 49erFX Nacra 17 World Championships. So by the end of today, by the end of this afternoon, in just a few hours, we will have 3 new world champions. Hi, my name's Andy Rice and I'm going to be bringing you the action today with my trusty team, Chris Musler and Nora Ruskula. Hi guys, this is going to be a thrilling day, is it not?
Yeah, I'm excited.
We all want to talk at once because we're excited to see what happens. You know, the biggest thing I'm excited about really is that we're going to have a, was it the 49er? The 49er has the chance to have a, well, it will. We will have a new world champion no matter what.
Because it's been so dominated in the past decade, firstly by Nathan Outridge and Ian Jensen winning, I think, 4 world titles, and then Pete Burling and Blair Tuke winning 6, and there's been a couple of other winners in between when Pete Burling and Blair Tuke were off on duty doing other things like the Volvo Ocean Race or the America's Cup. But finally, Pete Burling and Blair Tuke have stepped aside after their silver medal at Tokyo 2020, which means somebody here has to win because we have no previous world title winners. We've got one previous world championship winner in the 49erFX. That's also our reigning Olympic champions, Nora. They are a class act, but they have got a lot to do today if they're going to win another world title to go with the one they won in 2014, I think.
Yeah, you're talking about Martine Grael and Kahena Kunze, the 2 Olympic medalists, the gold medalists, the only gold medalists in the Olympics in FX. Yeah, I'm not surprised if they would win today, but Odile, the Dutch girls, they look pretty strong.
They do. We'll come back to that in a little bit more detail, and then of course we've got the Nacra 17s to watch as well. And yesterday we saw John Gibson and Anna Burnett, the Olympic silver medalists and recent European champions, step into the pole position to defend the title that they won last year in 2020. You were there in Geelong, Chris. That seems like a lifetime ago. It was 18 months ago, but it seems like a lot more, doesn't it?
Yeah, and for that team, you know, that team that were silver medalists in Tokyo, I mean, it's really special to have them here. And the Germans, who were the bronze medalists, they're here. You know, for 15 boats, this is a super deep world championships. There haven't been that many world championships in the Nacra 17 class. It's not that old. And that team actually didn't stand out, the British team, Gibson and Burnett, they didn't stand out until the medal race, which they handily took care of while the other 2 teams ahead of them were struggling in the back of the fleet fighting with each other. That was Nathan Outridge and Haley Outridge who kind of, you know, I don't know if they lost their world championship or how you'd put it, but that was, they were just lurking that whole championship. And now I wonder how they handle the pressure of actually leading. You know, we have one more fleet race though, so we can't jump to any conclusions yet, but it's really nice for them to be on top of the fleet, and they have a lot of confidence. And they said yesterday that this is a chip away regatta for them. You know, we've seen it. Nothing has come easily for any of these leaders.
I think that's always their approach, is to chip away. They're not remarkable. They just like to be steady about what they do and be patient about the way that they go about winning these championships. We'll come back to that in a little bit more detail. Nora, when I started sailing 49ers in 1997, there were 1 or 2 women that got involved in the fleet, but it was an open fleet and it ended up pretty much being men's fleet. And now I look around me today, and we have the 49er men, but we have the 49erFX women, and we have men and women racing together in the Nacra 17. That, to me, over the last 25 years, that looks like progress. But you did an interview yesterday,
Yeah.
and we still have a way to go, don't we? And that's what your conversation was about, right?
Yeah, we still have a way to go, and as you said, women in sailing in these classes haven't been here for a long time. So we still need a few more years, and that's why we need these badass women like Giulia Conti and Francesca Klapcic to promote gender equality and promote women in sailing, also to do pro sailing later on and have a career in this amazing sport. So I talked with Giulia about this, and we're gonna see now more about what she said. Welcome back to the 2021 World Championships in 49erFX, 49er and Nacra. I'm Nora Ruskola, and I'm here with Giulia Conti, World and European Champion. Together with your previous partner, or sailing partner, Francesca Klapcic.
Yes.
You have started this really cool new thing called equal sailing. Do you want to tell us more about what equal sailing is?
Sure. Don't worry about Klapcic because everyone makes it wrong. Don't worry. It's very easy surname
She's
to pronounce.
okay with that.
Yeah, she's okay. She's in peace with it. Equal sailing is born basically to promote gender equality in the sport of sailing. Okay, this is what we're trying to promote and to achieve. Well, as you know, sailing, started a process of, achieving gender equality in the sport. And as a matter of fact, in Paris 2024, at the Olympics, sailing will be for the first time on a 50-50% gender equality basis, which is super cool. But obviously, then when you do Olympic sailing, you do it for the glory, basically, not for live out of it. So when it comes to professional sailing, things, as you probably know, change a little bit. So in the pro sailing circuit, there are not many women that you can see sailing around and getting paid, to do their job. So equal sailing, we see ourselves as an accelerator, okay, of this process that obviously has already started. So our platform will be the 69F, which is that cool foiling boat for 3 people, and we plan to do as many, a lot of regattas, which is going to be the 69F Cup in the US, which are 4 events of 6 days each. The Cup in Europe, which is other 4 events of 6 weeks. We want to do the Youth Cup, which are 2 events in Europe and 2 in the US, and it's only dedicated to under 25-year-old people. Yeah. And then the core of the project is the Academy, which is going to be approximately 25 days of academy spread out throughout next year, and we want to involve 20 women from all over the world. Half of them under 25 years old of age, and give them the opportunity to sail on the boat and bridge the technical gap that unfortunately women have nowadays with men, especially when it comes to foiling boats. So we're basically giving women the opportunity, to have a technical growth, but also at the same time to offer job opportunities, because obviously the cups, the sailors that are gonna sail in the cups are gonna be paid. Yeah. Okay. So this is roughly what we are trying to do.
So you're basically creating a pathway for talented women to get into pro sailing and like helping with the learning and everything, so that they're like prepared for the real world of pro sailing.
Yeah, absolutely, and we want to do it in a foiling boat because this is where, the future is going, obviously. So that's why the 69F, and basically we're gonna send out. We're gonna post how we will accept, candidatures for the academy, and it's gonna be obviously with a curriculum, based, also on results, because obviously we want to, like in any company that you apply for a job and they decide on the basis of your experience, and we want to be super fair, and obviously for racing we're gonna try to pick the best sailors in the world, and we would like to have medalists at the game, and people that obviously can also have a voice in the world of sailing, and people that are listened, and because obviously also the aim of equal sailing, except the technical part, is also to raise awareness, no? Of this topic, and obviously the more people, the more the sailors are experienced, the more they are listened, and so that's why we would like to involve this kind of people, and the ultimate goal of equal sailing is, we actually are not a big fan of all female teams. But in a few years, we would love to see a mixed team on board, for example, of a flying 40 feet boat. So that's the ultimate goal. But obviously, for now, we have to start with all female, because first of all, the 69F is only a 3-people boat. So we need to get as many women as possible involved. So basically, roughly, this is the idea.
Okay, so someone like me, an Olympian, but now looking for new opportunities, I would be probably a good candidate to apply for this. And for the other, especially in the FX fleet, the other girls looking for opportunities in pro sailing after their Olympic careers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this is, why we will open the doors to all the candidates that would like to join the program. We obviously haven't done it yet because we are still in the worst part of the project, which is raising the right amount of money to make it a good project and not just an average project.
Yeah.
So. This is where we are at the moment with Francesca, but we are confident because I think it's a good project, and it comes I think at the right time, because a lot is happening with the Sail GP, with the women on board, that we can get better also on that, and not having women just passengers on board. There's the Women's America's Cup, which is another thing that it's pushing the sport towards that direction. Even if, again, I'm not a big fan of only women teams, but I hope that this decision will lead in the future to have a woman on board of the real America's Cup, because I think that what creates what makes the America's Cup a very exciting event is that you fight for the oldest trophy in the world in the sport overall, no?
Yeah.
So the Women's America's Cup is definitely not that. So we really hope that, in the future that's what is going to happen, to see a woman in the real America's Cup. So we'll see if it will happen.
That's so exciting, and like we're so all, I would say, me and all the other especially FX girls and a lot of girls that are looking for these opportunities are so happy that you're doing it, and just incredible. Thank you so much for doing this, and we hope that we can all help and find the funding and everything to get this going, because we need more of these and more of similar projects like these, and I hope to be involved one day in this as well. I hope the best, and thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Giulia Conti, she's such an incredible sailor, and you can see she's going to make such a difference in the sporting world beyond what she's achieved on the water. You enjoyed that interview, didn't you? I mean, it's a sign of things to come, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting, and I have noticed as well, just juggling with options to do after Olympic sailing. What are the options? Could we have a life career after this, the women sailors?
Yeah, because I think the Olympic movement and world sailing and the whole of the Olympic sailing movement deserve credit for how far they've come in the last 10 or 20 years. We're almost, if not already at gender equality in terms of numbers of participants. Behind the scenes, I think it's still a struggle to achieve equality in terms of race officers, administration, but I know that World Sailing are working really hard on achieving equality across the board. But as you say, Nora, that's all well and good, but the difference is that the men know that the Olympics is not necessarily where their careers stop. It might be the stepping stone. Getting that Olympic medal or even doing well in the Olympics might be a stepping stone to the America's Cup or round the world racing, whatever it is. That's still very much an emerging opportunity. There's a lot more to be done there, and I guess that's what Giulia's addressing so well here.
Yeah, exactly. We would like to see more women to continue after the Olympic their careers, and not just start working on something else. If their passion is sailing and they want to do it a longer time, why not have the ability to do it longer?
Chris, what was your takeaway from that?
Well, on the practical side, I want to see where the actual opportunities lie. And people have different approaches to address this. You can't call it an issue, but the goal, like Nora and I were talking about before, is to have that number of women versus men in the sport, that landscape to be normal. I know after the Volvo Ocean race with SCA, they were hoping that would make a great big impact. And when those sailors finished that and they looked for opportunities, even asking for opportunities, there were crickets. It didn't have the impact that they wanted, and that's why the Volvo Ocean race took that initiative that you mentioned about with Mark Turner and all of his team to kind of really make that happen. And so with Giulia, what they're doing is they're working on an academy, 25 days in a period of time with women from all over the world, half of that being under 25, which is obviously a really great way to look at it, and to bring up these skills that are more foiling skills, more education, to identify what's needed for these careers going forward. So it starts with education, and they were also saying that the goal isn't, they're not big fans of 100% women teams, are they?
Yeah, no, she was saying that, and I think it's interesting compared to the other organizations we've seen, but that's also something she was, I think, applying to, is that we need to start from there to have all women, and then eventually get to the part where it's equal, we will have men and women sailing these cool boats based on their skills and not on the gender.
So yeah, let's see how that plays out. I think Giulia is a fantastic individual. She's so passionate about the sport. I know she's going to make a success of equal sailing.
Yeah, I did want to say something about that, about her and Francesca Klaptic, both Italian Olympians. I think it's awesome. You have these athletes, these amazing people, when they're getting changing their side of their careers, they're deciding to do something. I mean, things don't change in this world when you're sitting on your couch, and the future's for the brave. and they're putting themselves out there. And I just want to point that out as individuals. They're a really good example, regardless of the actual thing that they're working on, which is gender equity in the sport. The fact that they're actually doing something, and no one, there are other, there's the Magenta project that's working on different opportunities for women in sailing, but they're taking a very strictly an educational, very forward-looking approach to increasing opportunities for women in sailing. And just, it's a good example to all the athletes and all the viewers out there that in our sport you can make a really big difference. Even though there are a lot of participants, it's a small network.
Let's just bring it back to today. We hear that sales are going up. It sounds like there's optimism for getting racing fairly soon. We are into the final day. This is when the heat gets turned up to full noise, and this is where people either step up to the plate or they crumble. And sports psychology, it's mental strength, mental toughness. This is where you need it more than any other time during the regatta. On the final day, we've got one race each for each of the fleets, for the Nacras, the 49er and the 49erFXs. Then the top 10 out of each of those fleets goes through to their medal race later on this afternoon. So we're going to be bringing you some action from the 49erFX and the 49er races before we get into all three class medal races this afternoon. So the mental strength, you never really know what it is that you need to do until you've been there, right? You need to have experienced it, or do you know what you need to do? Like when you went to the games, had you already prepared in your mind what it was that you needed to be ready for?
I guess all the athletes try to prepare for it, but as you said, you kind of have to go through it to understand. But any preparation you can do beforehand, it's really valuable, because then at least you lived through and visualized it in your head and tried to experience it and be prepared for everything. Kind of like preparing for a medal race. You can try your best to do it, but when you're actually in the medal race, that's when you understand the heat and the nervosity, everything that actually makes the medal race great, because it's tricky. It's difficult to sail in the medal race when you want to, win.
Well, they didn't experience a medal race in the European Championships in Thessaloniki recently, but they did get to third place. I'm talking about the Canadian sisters, Georgia and Antonia Lewin La France, and you did an interview with them on this very subject, right, Nura?
Yes, I did, and I specifically did it because they're sisters, and I think we have seen other sisters, brothers sailing together, but this is interesting to see them sail together and how they handle all the challenges. You will see more. I think really watch this interview. It was really interesting to hear what they think about mental strength and how they learn from each other even after all these years together.
All right, let's look at that video now.
Hello everyone, I'm here with the 49erFX team, Georgia and Antonia from Canada.
Hi.
Hi. How was your day today?
I think it was a good day for us. The racing's been really tricky here, really shifty and puffy, but I think one bad race and one good race equals a consistent score. So
I heard, racing's been tricky, and I can imagine there's a lot of communication going on in the team, and like the tricky situations where you have to decide quickly what will you do and stuff. Do you ever get like tricky communications in between each other? You don't know what you mean or what? Yeah.
yeah, I think so. We're kind of in a development stage, definitely. So one of the big things that we're always working on is our communication, and it's something we work on a lot with our sports psychologist as well. So yeah, definitely like in the racing here, when we have to make a quick decision, it's something that we need to work on, especially in the convergence zones. It's really important to make a decision quickly, or else you just lose your lane or you get rolled. So it's something we work on regularly and need to keep working on.
Have you been talking with your sports psychologist during this event?
We usually meet with our sports psychologist around once a week or bi-weekly, and we don't meet with him during the event, no. But we set goals with him before, and we worked up to the event so that we're ready with what we've been working on.
That's good to hear that you're doing it regularly. When did you start doing this?
I think we started working with him
over a year ago, at the beginning of 2019, maybe. And yeah, he's through our federation, through our province of Nova Scotia. That's how it works in Canada. So yeah, it's a good resource for us.
So have you noticed a difference in your sailing when you started working with him regularly?
1,000%.
What did you say?
1,000%.
We are sisters, so the boundaries are very blurred. Like the fine lines are even finer for us. So yeah, starting to work with a sports psychologist really helped us like learn about each other. We're both very, very different, even though we are related. So it was really important to learn like what we both need and to work through like not blurring those boundaries as much. So yeah, we have like set structure that we've made with our sports psychologist to help us through that. And it's helped immensely for sure. We've progressed. I think like progressing with our sports psychology and progressing with the sailing is one in one.
But it's huge for us because we're sisters and we're so different. I think Georgia's really a skipper. She's very, and I'm a crew, and I'm a little bit more, I need Georgia to keep me in line, and I think Georgia needs me to in a certain way, in my own way too. I think it would be scary if it was 2 Antonias or 2 Georgias in the boat.
I think it's interesting to hear that even though you're sisters and you obviously known each other the whole life, you still think you didn't like know each other until you started working with the sports psychologist. What are give me a few examples. What did you learn about each other?
I think that, well, one of the big things is we learn what support looks like for the other person, and it's very different considering we're 2 completely different people. And then also just working with the sports psychologist, we learn a lot about ourselves with like working on our daily routines and working on identifying like what emotions we might be bringing, and then that just helps like center the team. So that was really important as well, yeah.
Do you think this would be beneficial also outside sailing, not just sailing?
Definitely, I think it's it's definitely made us both mature a lot and kind of like get into that athlete mindset. But I think like an athlete mindset is something that will help us in years to come with getting jobs and like progressing out of sport when we're done.
Yeah, I was thinking, did someone guide you and tell you there's a benefit of using a sports psychologist specifically regularly, or did you kind of like just end up doing it, or are your goals to do it regularly?
Well, when we started sailing together in 2018, our coach Christoph also started coaching for Team Canada, so he started working with us, and I think he kind of said, okay girls, I can't like be the mediator anymore. So he actually found this sports psychologist specifically, and he met with him and thought he was a really good, he was really professional and had a really good structure, so he set us up with him. I think it was a little bit of an ultimatum. It was like, okay girls, because yeah, siblings, there's no secret that sibling teams have, we have big arguments, so it affected our training a little bit, so.
Okay, well, hey, thank you so much. It was really interesting to hear how you think about this, and I hope the other teams will maybe learn something and get something out of this and see you as an inspiration for using a sports psychology more often, since you obviously have a huge benefit from it.
Yeah, a really big benefit. Thank you, Nora.
Thank you so much. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
So Nora, how do you rate the psychological approach of the Canadian sisters? Do you think they got a good attitude and going about things the right way?
I think they have a good attitude and they're doing it professional. Like that they're actually using a sports psychologist regularly, and they're seeing the change, like how it affects their sailing ability to race with each other.
Yeah, well, it's a really interesting area where there's still a lot of science to be discovered. I think, Chris, we've got up into space, we've put a man on the moon, but we still don't really know what's going on in here yet, do we?
Exactly, but I think the thing that's not rocket science is the fact that it's really it's being accepted more and more as a competitive advantage in the sport. And the one thing that we saw in Geelong, and we talked about this a little bit, is that with the introduction of mixed teams, two different, sometimes gender-wise, possibly two different approaches to the sport, to competition, that the female sailors in the Nacra fleet were almost demanding. There were a lot of sports psychologists that were working every day with the sailors, besides their coaches, besides their performance coaches. And so regardless of the fact that it's the biggest challenge, today, a big jump for a lot of the teams is just qualifying for the medal race. That's going to be their biggest mental challenge and physical challenge today. And then after that, they have to go rolling right into the teams that are working on qualifying, and then they get into the medal race. They have double duty, compared to the other teams psychologically. So if they haven't thought about these inevitabilities, getting through it, not worrying about what's next, then getting into it and then reshuffling and worrying about that, then they're going to be at a disadvantage when they get into the medal race. So I think that the fact that we have these awesome high performance classes, like the FX, that's not very old, but that's sailing at the same regattas as the 49ers, and then you have the mixed teams. I think the female sailors particularly are really influencing these fleets and reminding us that the psychological part of it, using sports psychologists like the Canadians do, is a competitive advantage, and I really, really think that that's going to become normal going forward.
So in a way, psychology is sort of getting the spanner out and adjusting things in your mind. But of course, as sailors, especially in a technical sport, you need to think about the technical aspects of what you adjust on the boat. And thinking about the next upgrade that's coming with the Nacra 17, they are going to be moving to adjustable rudder elevators, the potential for upwind foiling, as well as more consistent downwind foiling. And we've got an interview about that, looking into this latest upgrade of tech that we're going to be seeing on the Nacra 17 next year. Let's see where this class is going next.
Welcome back to the 2021 Worlds, and I'm here with Ravi Parent from the U.S. Nacra 17 team.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. It's been a really fun event and excited for some more racing today.
This is going to be one of our only technical talks today, but we'll try to make it as fun as possible. One of the challenges that the Nacra 17 class has had since it was introduced in Rio for the Rio Olympics 2016. And in that event, they had just regular straight rudders, no other appendages on them, and then C-shaped dagger boards that had a lot of lift, but the boats really never sailed fully clear of the water, I guess. Then between 2016 and Tokyo 2020, lifting dagger boards were added, and T-foil rudders were added to help control the balance of the boat fore and aft, so they can fly flat and fully out of the water, foiling. And so what has happened since then in the development of the class, this class can change its appendages just as long as it votes on it, just like it did between the Olympics. It went from a non-foiling class to a foiling class and didn't have to get world sailing approval to do that, which is really cool. Now they're just trying to control the boat just a little bit more because they were a little wild. So Ravi, tell me what these boats are like to sail right now, and then what the class is just working on right now to make them more controllable.
So overall, I think the boats are quite fun to sail. They're very challenging in several different conditions, but also quite rewarding. So right now we have sort of an active daggerboard control, active meaning that we have to physically adjust it. It's not sort of an auto-regulating system. And like Chris, you said, we have the T rudders, but those are sort of set before the race. 4 bolts hold it in place, and we have to pick our setting, kind of like your out haul or some major setting like that. And that kind of has strengths in simplicity and allowing us to generally foil around the race course, but it's also a bit limiting in that you really kind of have to pick where you're optimizing the boat, whether it's for upwind or downwind or for a certain breeze or breeze strength or sea state, and it sort of limits the full potential of the boat there.
Right, so, and if I'm not mistaken, when I watch you guys, when you go in full foiling mode, the crew does a tremendous amount of forward and aft movement. Is that kind of the major lift and dive control?
Yeah, that's what you could more realistically call the active control. The crew is basically, the common term now is flight controller, so the crew is basically running a lot of those pitch, and obviously the driver's helping a bit as well. But generally, you don't have time to make these really small adjustments with both foils or the rudders or anything like that. So the strongest thing you can do is just move your body and trim the sails.
Great. So fast forward to September of this year, and I was told that the class has been moving towards a more active control system, not for the dagger boards, those are the same, but like in the Moth class, you can control your rudder angle with a T-foil, so you can control the pitch of the boat more regularly or with more stability. And as opposed to a crew running all the way back and forth, you can't do that on a Moth or other kinds of foiling boats. So what does the class develop, and tell me what you had tested over the course of the summer and the pandemic.
Yeah, so we've we've developed an adjustable rudder system. It's basically a system that allows us to change the angle of attack of the rudder about 4.5 degrees.
Meaning like 4.5?
Yep,
because
exactly.
it has a foil on the bottom of it, and that changes it going in decreasing lift or adding lift to the transom.
Yeah, exactly. And that's changing the angle of attack there, and it's really controlling the pitch of the boat. It's really changing how the boat, its attitude is in the water. And that's really relevant for different sea states or different boat speeds and breeze conditions. And it really opens up the opportunity for us to be more optimized around the race course, whether you're going upwind and you need a little bit of rudder lift to kind of help the boat stay in control going up and over waves, or downwind you don't want to sail around with too much rudder lift. You want to actually be able to keep the bow out of the water. You can really make a difference between upwind and downwind.
Right, and that's just like what we see in moth sailing. You go around the weather mark and you're decreasing lift in the rudder to lift the bow up, to keep the bow up, and so you're not crashing down in the waves.
Yeah.
So you have been sailing the A-class catamaran, the International A-class catamaran, which in their rules have a lot more flexibility in terms of your control systems. So this rudder control system has been developed, and you tested it in A-cats. And what did you discover in terms of the controllability of the boat using this system?
It's actually been really, really helpful for the A-class. The A-class, it's a much lighter boat. It's a single-handed boat, so the driver is also the crew and is doing basically everything on the boat because it's one person. And having this adjustable rudder system and also the ability to add differential really makes a huge difference.
Now explain differential. That's a little bit complex for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Differential, in simplest terms, is the ability to adjust each rudder independently. So for our purposes, it's to be able to put the windward rudder to a negative lift, so it's adding riding moment, making you feel heavier.
Holding the weather AMA down,
yep.
The weather hull down, and then?
Boat goes faster, and it really helps really convert that power into speed.
Right, but the differential is weather rudder pulling down?
Yes, pulling down.
And then the leeward rudder?
Is adding lift.
Adding lift,
yeah.
Like the America's Cup boats do.
Exactly like that.
So,
yeah.
Very cool. That sends it into a whole new level.
Yeah, it's really going to help us now that we've really started to develop the system in the Nacra 17. I see that we're going to see a bit more upwind foiling in the class, especially in these flatter conditions whenever we get them, and it's really going to be a bit more exciting.
Awesome. Now, you developed this system. It's an adjustable system. The dagger board is using a spool with line, and we're going to try to pop a picture into this interview, but just tell me as briefly as you can, how actively can you control this rudder angle system?
About as actively as you can control any other control line. So for anyone who's familiar with catamarans, we have a mast rotation, for example. The rudder system is right next to it on the deck. Perhaps we can show a picture of that too, where it's something that you're not going to have it in your hand all the time, but it's something that, puff, lull, maybe bigger transition or tack jibe, you can make some adjustments. So it's not quite the full auto-regulating system, but it's definitely something that you're going to adjust frequently.
Awesome. And I did hear that at the meeting, so you had been the test guinea pig, but that at the meeting in September, this had to be approved. And it's pretty hard to get things changed in any class association because there's a bunch of people with a bunch of different ideas. But you tested it, you came back with your opinion, and Ben Remerker from the class association said this whole thing rested on you. So I guess the whole class has some thanks to you for an easier to sail boat, maybe. How did that meeting go?
Hope so. Yeah, some of the big selling points for the system were it's easy adoption. So all we're changing really is the upper gudgeon. So we're just mounting a new upper gudgeon in a slightly different location.
Yeah. So there are 2 points that hold the rudder to the boat.
Yep.
And those are the gudgeon.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So a lot of the hardware really stays the same. We're just adding one piece of hardware there. It's all external. So the A-cats nowadays have actually, a lot of them gone into through transom systems, which cut out holes and all these complicated things, but this is really basic system. one of the other selling points was I used the system on an older boat the whole time, and one of the big questions for people was durability of equipment, durability of sails, durability of boats, and I put in, all the days I did sailing, I put on, one of the early foiling Nacra 17s, a 2017 boat. So that was really, really cool to see and really telling that this system is, it has a lot of potential.
Cool. And so I guess the last thing I'll say is you did a lot of your practicing with this throughout the pandemic because you had nothing else to do. But as an athlete through the last year and now showing up at this World Championship, I mean, you're psyched to be here, obviously. Mm-hmm. And do you feel like you've missed out on anything over the last year in terms of your training for the next Olympics, or how are you feeling right now in your campaign? Are you anxious, or you just have a nice plan and you're feeling like you're hitting the groove even though we're 1 year into the cycle?
Yeah, I mean we're always wish we could do more racing. Always wish you have more time. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's going to wish they sailed more. The important thing is we're just trying to make the best of every situation we have. Over the past year, between a bit of training in the Nacra 17 and some cross training in the A class, whenever we couldn't do the Nacra 17 sailing, it was sort of the best way we could use our time. And we come in here with the skills that we have and eager to race and looking forward to the next day.
Cool. What's your big goal for 2022?
Keep pushing in this Nacra 17 rudder system, kind of see how the class develops, and it's going to be really interesting because everyone's going to approach it a different way and just really learn from everyone.
Yeah, so that'll be big. And when does everyone start using those, do you think?
I haven't heard exactly when Nacra is going to start selling it to everyone. I believe they're going to put out the pre-orders next week, but my my instincts tell me it's probably going to be around Palma when we're going to see it. So
yeah, this is the first big spring regatta.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Ravi, thanks so much, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheers. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
What an interesting guy Ravi is, and some exciting tech to look at, which I want to ask you about a little bit later, Chris. But I hear that racing is going to be getting away fairly soon, so we're going to keep it going. The orange flag that the committee used to get the race into sequence for the 49ers initially, that is going up in less than 10 minutes from now. So you can see the 49ers tuning up, checking out the breeze, just hoisting the kite, checking that everything is working okay. So that is great. There's one more video interview that we want to fit in before we actually go to racing. And Chris, this was another one that you did. Really interested to see what these guys have to say. It's one person retiring from the sport after a long time, and it's another one just getting on their Olympic road. So let's see who Chris interviewed and just find out about these two interesting sailors.
I am Chris Museler. We are at the 2021 Nacra 17 49erFX and 49er World Championships, and I'm with two pretty awesome crews, or actually totally awesome crews here from the regatta. We have...
Hi, I'm Shweta Shervekar from India.
And...
Hey, I'm Paweł Kołodziński. I'm from Poland.
Great, and the reason why we brought these two here today, we always try to learn a little bit about the people that are sailing in the event. Everyone comes from fantastic backgrounds. They're all highly intelligent and hardworking athletes from their countries, but we want to learn a little bit about their backgrounds and then get some people together that can learn from each other. The reason why we have Shweta and Paweł is because Shweta is not only is she an emerging nations coach and a doctor, but she is relatively new. She did FX about 2 or 3 years ago, and
I left sailing and again was completely into coaching and did some 470 mixed class. And just recently, a month ago, I found a committed partner towards the new campaigning of 24 Olympics. So yeah, full-time sailing now.
Awesome. And so that's pretty new at least in the FX with this partner. And Paweł, you've been in the FX since before the 2012 Olympics in London, right?
Yes, maybe I was not an FX, but a
yeah,
49er.
Yeah. Sorry, 49er.
Yeah, we started sailing with Lucas on, I think, August 2010.
Now, the important part of this conversation right now is that Paweł, this is his last World Championship in the 49er since you started sailing. You've been sailing full time. You have a family. and you probably have other things in your life you want to accomplish. Tell me just a little bit about, what weight that put on you for the past 11 years, traveling a lot but still starting a family.
I think everyone has to be concentrated on and focused on the sport program, but in the middle you can fit family life, but you have to have partnership with your wife and grounds around. So it was for me 11 years of great training program, and I could make a happy family, and now I changed the priorities. I quit sailing. I quit Olympic sailing because in sailing I want to be till the end, and I want to focus more on my family and 2 boys.
And how old are your children? And it must not have been easy though in the last bunch of years. You must miss them.
Yeah, I miss them much because we spent a lot of time around the world and not that much at home. And boys are, the older one is almost 6 and the younger is almost 2. And they are Olympic years boys. So in 2016 was born Christopher, and 2020 was born Gregor.
Awesome. And just flashing back a little bit, Shweta is just getting started with her FX campaign, very new. What was the very first part of your 49er campaign?
For the beginning, it was great that our coach made a group, 49er Team Polska. There were 3 crews training together, similar level, but maybe Marcin Czajkowski, best greetings, was experienced guy. So he was the leader, and there was 5 young guys around making big progress step by step. So I think great value is to have a strong training group and working together and have great open cooperation. And that's the point, I think, to fight against the world.
And Shweta, how about for you? Tell us just a little bit about India's program, because this is an opportunity to learn what's going on in India. You're just starting out. Is there a pretty big FX 49er squad in India, and how did you get involved?
No, like an FX squad, we are the only girls doing it right now, and we have 2 teams basically, but we are full-time sailing. Boys, 49er, we have 9 to 10 boats from Army, Navy and the other civilians. Recently, I think in the Tokyo Olympics, one of our 49ers from India represented in the Olympics. So that was the biggest achievement for us. So from India, it was 3 classes who qualified for Olympics. One from laser radial, laser standard and 49er. So now since the sailing is growing day by day, and of course after this big achievement of India representing in Olympics, I think that will boost up sailing in India quite a lot. Yeah, the new generation is coming up in sailing quite well. They're just picking up and they're putting more interest. And hoping to see more upcoming Olympics and an Asian Games. For us, next year is Asian Games, so that's the main biggest focus. And then of course the Olympics to qualify and then represent and get medals. So looking forward to that.
Now, Pavel was saying, it was number one focus to, as an athlete, to really get to the games and to achieve those goals. It sounds like you definitely want to take the path that he just is finishing right now at this regatta, and you're just starting at this regatta. You're a doctor, you're a coach for the emerging nations, but where does your passion come from? When you look at your next couple years leading up to 2024, how hungry are you right now?
Of course, to go to the Olympics and stand on the podium is my childhood dream. That's being a doctor, I am not that much focused into practicing medicine, at least for now. I'm full-time sailing. So yeah, I do, especially in the COVID period, I did my, whenever I was off training, I completely gave my time and dedication towards my patients. But yeah, now back to sailing. So those days I was because the COVID was such a big disaster for the whole country. So I was almost seeing 300 patients a day that time. And now I think, yeah, whatever my part or as my duty towards as a doctor, I had given it back. But now I will come back to my dreams and hope to qualify for 24 Olympics and be somewhere in the top.
Awesome. And like we were saying, I guess the other main thing to bring you guys together is, you know, Pavel, we talked about that idea of what advice would you give to your 18 or 20-year-old self when you were starting out your career, knowing what you know now, going into retirement. But can you answer that or ask that question or give that information to Shweta and other crews and teams just starting out careers? Is there something that you know now that you didn't know when you started your career that could really help people like Shweta just starting out this path?
I think Shweta has got big dreams, so it's a really important thing. But on the way, on the path, you have to be patient. You have to get your experience race by race, regatta after regatta, make good thoughts about what happened, what we can change for the future, and just make slowly progress, and then it blow up. So just be patient and do good things with proper teammates.
Awesome.
Definitely, that's a very, very good point, and I mean that's the thing. What an athlete needs, a patience. Like patience levels need to be like, you know, we cannot suddenly think, okay, now because this is my first world championship with a new partner, so I cannot expect a direct results of getting into a medal race. Of course, we'll try our best to be there, but you know, that as what Paulo said, like, you know, step by step, like first finish all the races and stop 75%, then 50%, and then achieve the next level. So definitely it's like a ladder to achieve, and definitely. And one thing what I believe is, like, you believe in yourself and keep pushing hard, rest everything will come back to you. So that's what my motto of life, of pushing ahead and never give up, just keep going, and that really helps me a lot.
Awesome. Well, I hope everyone's listening to that. One thing I see at these World Championships as we wrap this up is that we have a, you know, not everyone achieves what they want to achieve at the event. And so I kind of saddens me when I see athletes like really down on themselves when they're not achieving. But maybe what's the, you know, like you're just climbing the ladder right now, and, you know, believing in yourself. I mean, is there any other one little piece of advice you can give to someone who's still struggling, you know, in the middle or the bottom of the fleet?
See, as my sailing career, like, it was like too up and down, but I thought never to give up. Like, sometime your hard work will pay off, definitely. Because initially, I think when I was sailing Opti and then laser, then after some time I didn't got proper support from anyone. So I thought whatever my dreams were to represent my country and stand on the podium, I will start by coaching kids, you know. But if I can't do as a sailor, I will start coaching kids. So that's how I started with coaching. And after a few years, I got some opportunity that, oh, do you want to come back in sailing? Like, because of my height, weight, and my experience. So I thought, why not? You know, if I'm getting a good opportunity to come back and perform and get back to my dreams, yeah, I took it as a biggest challenge, and I came back, and that was a good comeback, for me. And I proved it by getting a medal in the Asian Games in 2018 for India. So, and again I went back for coaching, and I think now I'm back in 49erFX. So I'm happy, and I like faster boards, so yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's a great pathway and a great place to end this on. Just get your hands into the sport any way you can. And like you said, it'll come back to you. So thank you both, Shweta. Thank you, Pavel. And thank you. Hopefully we'll do a couple more of these this World Championship. And that's all for now from Oman.
So that was Chris's interview with one sailor who is about to sail his final 49er World Championship, and one who's just embarked on her first 49erFX World Championship. And Nura, we are just a few minutes away from the start of the final 49er qualifying race before we get into the medal race later on this afternoon. And we've got a team, Bart Lambriax and Floris van der Werken from the Netherlands, that have only teamed up with each other since Tokyo 2020. So they've been sailing together, must be at least less than 3 months. It's probably a good deal less than that. And we got a similar scenario going on with the Dutch 49erFXs as well. So it's a strange scenario. We got 2 new teams, both from the Netherlands, both doing really well. What do you think the magic might be down to?
I think even though they're a new team, new setup, they have definitely probably been sailing together in trainings, but I just think it's the system, how the Dutch, like how the system works, that they have a training group, they have the boats and sailors, but it's not set on who sails with who. It's more like they switch and rotate, and I think that's why it works. They can sail with whoever, and it works. Like, they're in the top. Crazy.
Something for the rest of the world to think about. We think about being very loyal to our teammate and being very much a unit, but I just wonder if there is something to be said for sailing with different people and seeing what you learn from that.
I totally agree. I think the rest of us could like learn from it, and hopefully we'll see that more in the future.
I'd like to go out on the water just to see where things are at. So if we can get a waterside view, well, it looks like we're very close actually. So we are getting close into the start of the final race of 49er racing, and it looks like it's pretty busy down the pin end of the line, and a real gap in the middle.
Yeah, the middle looks like I would not park my boat there necessarily. Yeah, there are 3 winds. You see the Polish there and the US, but you really need to know where the starting line is. So have some good transits to know when to start. Maybe, as I talked earlier, some of them are on purpose a bit further away, not to show where the line is to the others, so they can do a early start. And
yeah, absolutely. It's looking pretty hectic in the middle, but there's a real midline sag right now.
Like, as a sailor, it is, if you want to start from the right, you're going to do everything to start from the right side or from the committee side. But looking from here, it looks ridiculous that they're like piled up in both ends, or now it's a bit free at the flag, because you would think, well, there's plenty of space down in the middle. Like, why is no one there? But this is just how it works. You want to be on the side. It's quite light winds, so you want to be definitely on the side of the fleet. So either at the pin end here on the left side, or further up at the committee boat end.
Looks like India hasn't found a spot to go into, so India maybe is lining up for the port tack start underneath the fleet. The level of control of these boats just blows me away, just how they can, well, the way they're not blown away, they can just sit in one spot all the time. We've got 25 seconds to go. India sailing on port tack behind the fleet. Croatia looks like it's managed to book the spot at this end of the line. But
it's the Dutch team here, down all the way at the flag, so it looks like they really want to have the pin end start. That's a great place to be, and you really want to be the first boat if you do that, since after the start you will have able to choose whatever angle you want to sail. Okay, that was the start. Ooh, actually it was a really even start for all the boats, so this looks really good.
Really good start for the pin end boat. Look at the boats struggling to hold on to them already. It's just the power of the pin end again that is coming into play.
Yeah, you can see the Finnish team struggling to hold on. If you're not the first boat and you don't have free air in the pin end, you will just like die off quite quickly, and you don't really have another choice. You just have to tack away and duck the other boats and go to the other side. As we saw yesterday, the Canadians had to do it in the FX, and they ended up winning the race. No, going really well in the race.
They were right up there, weren't they? I'm trying to think where they finished in that race, but they were bounced out to the right-hand side by the Brazilians. The Brazilians got a fantastic start, and it just didn't work out for them at all. But look at Ned 49 looking very strong at this end of the line.
I would, if I were them, I think they're gonna stay there until they'll see how the fleet will react. Will the fleet stay as it is, depending on the wind, of course? If the wind is steady, they will continue probably all the way to the left side. just staying outside of fleet. If there's shifts, we will see them tacking soon.
So we're looking at the overall leaders of the regatta. Front of screen, Netherlands 49, Bart Lambrechts, Floris van der Werken. We were just talking about how this new pairing is doing so well. They currently hold a 6-point advantage over Germany 13, Tim Fischer and Fabian Graf, and there's quite a gap, a 13-point gap back to the Danes in third, Frederik Raskin, Jakob Precht Jensen. So Lambrechts and Floris van der Werken, they've got a good start here. But they are at the moment quite exposed on the left-hand side of the racetrack, where they seem quite happy to be.
Today, the 49ers and the rest of the boat classes, they only have one fleet racing, and after that, a medal race. So I think we could see a lot of... Sorry, I'm just thinking, what's the word? Like taking risks. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, yeah. The last throw of the dice for,
exactly.
for some teams.
Not necessarily for the Dutch or the top 3 boats, but the rest from 4 to 13, 14th place. I can imagine doing it quite risky today.
Yes, might as well do it. Chris.
And we were just watching the Danish there, that kind of peeled off. I'm just trying to see where they are on the race course, but they are in third.
I think they just tacked away.
Yeah, they just tacked away, and they are in third place right now in the fleet, so they don't have any issues probably qualifying for the medal race. But there are a bunch of boats on the bubble, and here we are. The Dutch just tacked off from the left edge of the course, and it's really light. You can see there's a big patch of what might be no wind in the middle of the course. So let's see how that affects it, because the lead group is heading right into that patch.
Yeah, you can spot it really easily from up here. I suspect they can see it even from where they are down at sea level. Really nice tack there by Netherlands 49. Floris van der Werken walking round the front of the mast to keep the bow down and the transom out of the water. Most of the hard work through that smooth tack having to be done by the helmsman.
Despite the drone footage now following the Dutch, it looks like, looking at the tracker, that they're quite far away, and the back of the fleet, it looks like the right side is actually gaining quite much, or they're a bit further ahead. Australia all the way to the right, Australia 112, the green boats you see on the right side, and also in the middle, Austria 29. I think that those two are some we want to continue looking at.
Well, right with us here on the right side of the course, the Australians in that USA team, they are the ones that are on the bubble. They are in 12th and 13th place in the fleet overall right now. This is the last chance that they have to bump up another 5 to 8 points to get back up into the medal race. And this is everything for them. All their training basically this year has been to this moment, and to keep their season alive. The Australians and the USA team, who are actually in a really great position, they're first and second. If that holds up this beat, right now we're seeing kind of a left shift, kind of lifting the whole fleet up. Everyone but about 4 or 5 boats are on port tack. But I'm really interested to watch if USA and Australia keep up there. They're going to get into the medal race, and that's going to live to fight another day. Or another afternoon.
As you say, Chris, they're on the bubble and at the moment doing the right things, perhaps to get into that top 10 before this afternoon's medal race. So it could be that the Dutch on the left-hand side of the water, right-hand side of our screen as we look at them. We can't actually see them on the screen at the moment. They could be struggling up this first beat right now. Looks like middle right is the place to be, but the boats on the far right, such as the Australians, the first boats are beginning to tack on that side. It does seem like there's a little bit more breeze on the right hand side of the race course.
To give you some perspective on the way the breeze is working today, we were still hanging out on shore this time yesterday. There was not a drop of breeze on the water. So I think this is really great. We have the last day of the World Championships, 1 fleet race in each class, and then the medal race. And I really have a good feeling that this sea breeze is going to come in. This is one of the earliest that it's come in. So hopefully this should build throughout the day. Maybe we'll start to see as it settles in, it goes right like it has before.
Now quite many of the boats have tacked just pretty much the same time. It looks like a shift. We can't see it on the angle yet, on the tracking here, but it's normally a shift, unless there's a huge gust. Let's see if we see anything on this drone footage.
Boat speeds are really down right now, so this is definitely early days in this sea breeze. Top speed is from the leaders, Peters and Sterrett. Andy, tell me where these sailors have been. Haven't they finished in the top of this fleet a couple times?
Yes, they had a phenomenal year in 2017, just after the end of the Rio cycle. They've been sailing the boat quite a long time now, but they were serious contenders to earn selection for Great Britain. And if you remember, Great Britain ended up winning the Olympic gold medal. So Peters and Sterrett, when they're on form, are a world-class team. They came second in the World Championships in 2017, second in the European Championships, and they won one of the World Cups in Enoshima at the Olympic venue. So when they're on form, they're really on form. But they've taken 2 years out in an office job to remember what the real world is like. And at the end of those 2 years, I think they concluded that they'd rather go back sailing again. But they've gone back sailing again, and they've been reminded that when you've not been training, when you've not been in this game, and your head's been elsewhere, going through paper clips or whatever in the office, that this is a very different world that they've got to get their heads back into.
And that's Andy, a really valid point. Like, the level is really high in this racing, and even though we see, let's say, new teams or new pairings in the top winning at the moment, the Dutch, it doesn't mean that, the level would be less higher demanding. As you see, we have the amazing sailors, the British guys, all the way down at the
in the overall standings,
yeah.
but doing well in this race.
Yeah, now this is exciting to see the top of this beat, to see Fischer and Graf from Germany, at least at the top on the tracker. But this is where fleet management really comes in. We're watching right here at the weather mark, Peters and Sterrett, and Fischer and Graf just managed to come in on the port side. So keeping free, that British and German team were able to stay away from that big pack to the right and sailing clear air up to this mark. And then sneaking in are our leaders, Lambrix and De Verken. It's pretty hard to keep them down, isn't it?
Well, I'm a little bit staggered just how well the left just came back. I mean, they were back in about 22nd or 23rd place, but it seems like the left-hand side came good towards the end. And just as I thought Fischer and Graf were going to have their moment to attack for the overall series lead, we have first and second in the overall standings going round in first and second around this mark. So the Dutch and the Germans really marking themselves out as the standout performers, and increasingly this looks like it's coming down, this world title is coming down to a match race between Lambrix, Van der Verken from the Netherlands and Fischer and Graf from Germany.
I do have a report from Lambrix from the Netherlands that they were on port, very close to the port-tack ley line, basically more than half that beat.
Okay.
I think they did one tack throughout the... Yeah, but let's
Meanwhile,
go.
a lot of jibe sets, very, very busy at this windward mark. This boat doing a little bit of kinetics to get its way round the windward mark. That's Denmark 7. They're our third place boat overall, but they are struggling a little bit. Rask and Precht Jensen. So some of the front runners struggling in these conditions at the moment. A lot of jibe sets. But meanwhile, we at the front of the fleet, bouncing through some waves, but still with a good lead over second place Germans. It's Bart Lambrix and Floris van der Verken. Can anybody hold these Dutch sailors back? Because they seem to have the grip on the world title at the moment.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'm so surprised to see them there. They just calmly, went to the left, one tack, just squeeze in the upwind mark rounding just before the other boats. Incredible.
They were the only ones really that made that work out of that fleet on the left-hand side. They committed to it early, and I see a lot of similarities between the way the Dutch are sailing and the way Martina Grael sailed yesterday with Kahina Kunz. I think that they have modes that make a side work, not necessarily that side was, perfect, because we saw the majority of the fleet came out of the middle right. And so I think that it should be no surprise that the Dutch are leading this fleet and going from strength to strength. It is a surprise that the Brazilians aren't leading their fleet with moves like that, like magical moves up the beats. But on this run, it's really light, and it's Nora, tell us, is it a bigger decision when it's this light to jibe?
Wait, can you ask again?
Yeah, is it a bigger decision to jibe, to throw in a jibe when you've been on starboard for a long time, and it's lighter, so there's a bigger penalty for jibing?
Well, yeah, if you jibe, you basically can't jibe back. Like, there's just no way. You lose so much speed, and it takes ages to get up to speed to the same level. But it's just, you only want to jibe if there's actually a point of jibing, like a gust or a shift. Normally a gust downwind, that's what you're jibing to. It's really interesting to see the tracking here. Most of the fleet is going to the left, but you have this little bunch on the right side that did a jibe set. This is quite common, I would say, in light wind, is that trying to just be more on the sides. There's not much wind in the middle, and now for example, the French are leading, doing an early jibe, squeezing out the last of the wind that we have in the middle of the race course. But yeah, for the Dutch, they had to go quite far away before there was point for them to jibe.
Consistently, the fastest boat at the moment is Uruguay on the right-hand side, one of the early jibe setters, and now sailing back down on starboard and sometimes touching 9 knots, currently doing over 8 knots. That's Fischer and Graf, second in the championship, and struggling to hold on to the second place, which they were as they went around the windward mark. So Fischer and Graf are having a fight in amongst the traffic. They were so close to Netherlands 49. It was first and second around the windward mark between the top 2 in the overall World Championship standings. They do seem to have a good clear lane there, but look at the boats on the far side, Nora. What do you make of the boats on the far side from that picture?
Well, it looks like they move a lot quicker than the Germans here, but it might be just the camera angle. But when you see that, when you're in that moment, like you're all the way to one side and you see the other side going well, that's like, okay, let's just calm our nerves. We can't do anything about it. We'll just float and hope we'll get some breeze. Kind of like, blowing to the wind, some wind to your sails almost.
Yeah, you're hoping, and hope isn't a good strategy usually. So
no.
in this, even from this view and looking at the tracker, you only know how it's going to turn out when they actually meet, because one puff can change things in 20 degrees. We have Uruguay here. I really don't think it looks good for the Dutch at all right now. And the good thing is, in this regatta, we get to talk about people again, and the Uruguayans, I am not surprised to see them pulling this move. They did the same thing as everyone else, but they're going a lot faster. They're both around 60 kilos, which is about 140 pounds or something like that. They won the Asian champs going away. They were leading this whole qualifier series for a little while. They're really great. And they're good sailors. They know what to do with it, but they're very small and they're very fast.
Yeah, 60 kilos, not much if they're both 60 kilos.
Yeah, maybe 62.
But like that will make equal of 120 when the guys are around 160 kilos, I would say.
So really close cross there between Austria and the Netherlands. So Austria now gets ahead of the Netherlands. So it's been an expensive run for the Netherlands, who were leading quite comfortably.
Uruguay.
Just three minutes. No, I think that's Austria.
Oh, is that Austria?
And,
That's
and
I'm sorry.
Uruguay is a little bit further ahead than what we can see here.
Yeah.
So the early jibe off for Uruguay has gone really nicely. I think that's Uruguay we see on the right hand of the screen with the yellow kite, and you can see them aiming between the 2 leeward gate marks, and you just see the breeze pick up nicely for Uruguay. Looks like they might both be fully stretched, all 120 kilos of their body weight fully out on the boat,
flying in.
Everybody else is sitting in. Oh, that is really rubbing everybody else's nose in it, isn't it?
It is. They're just thinking like, the light guys. This is the fun in the sport, Light winds, light teams do normally have an advantage in speed, indeed.
And we know they're excellent sailors because we know what they know what to do with a lead. They know what to do at the top of the fleet. We've seen them pick off places and gotten pushed back and come back again. So we know they have all the skills. They just haven't sailed against any of these teams, really. They've been in Uruguay.
Yeah, they had
the first normal-sized crew of Ferrarese and Chiesi from Italy, rounding in second place. So that's been a massive game for them, and this goes to show how much things have been mixed up. And it looks like Rasprecht Jensen might be up there. Now, they were way back at the top, Mark. I'm wondering if they were another jibe setter, but I remember commenting on just what a horrible first leg they had. But look how busy it's going to get now. This is getting really hectic. But Hong Kong is third around the mark next. So Sakai and Aylesworth.
I have a question. Where are the Dutch? There they are. I'm like, no, where did we lose them?
Well, where they are, point to us on the screen.
Oh
Okay, we see them on the left-hand side, coming in on around the left-hand mark, but that's been a really expensive run for the Dutch. After leading that round the windward mark and stretching to a fairly comfortable lead. Nothing is ever certain on this racetrack, with USA going out on the far side, Ireland 99 amongst the boats going round to the left, and Netherlands 49 are overall world title leaders, just pumping the boat up to speed as they get away from the left-hand lure mark. Really busy for India, going round with one of the Polish teams round the far right, Poland coming round the left. It's so hectic. The Australians, they were vying for the lead early on, and there's a British boat going round now. Surely that is not James Peters and Finn Sterrett, who were so far up. No, it's not. I think it's Jack Hawkins and Chris Thomas, but it's super busy, and we're on board with Mikolaj Staniel and Jakub Storch from Poland.
They sit in 6th place overall. They don't have any real fear of not making it into the medal race. But you can see here, the breeze has not picked up except for that, overstanding the leeward mark with the Uruguayan team. But there was a lot of losses and a lot of gains, big changes from the middle of that downwind leg. And I really saw with the Dutch on that downwind leg, they were out of phase. And here we are with the Danish and Jakob, who went to the Olympic Games with
Jonas Svarra.
Yeah. And this is a new pairing, but they went right into training. They knew where they were going to be together after the Olympic Games. And
they trained for like 3 months or something like that together. So
yeah,
a really new pairing.
Yeah.
But Jacob and Jonas were, I think they were around 5th, at the Tokyo Games.
And remember when we were watching the teams in the light air and the FX and the 49er moving around so much, this team seems like they're really smooth considering how bumpy and light it is right now. I mean, they look really relaxed. We were talking about how Odile looked a little tense,
Yeah.
And this pairing looks pretty relaxed to me. What do you think, Andy?
I wasn't thinking that so much actually. I think maybe in body language a little bit, but no, I think I think it's really hard to be relaxed in a 49er in these conditions, to be honest. Yeah. Unless you're the Uruguayans, of course, where you're fully stretched on the trapeze. And the Uruguayans have done a couple of tacks up the left-hand side. They're finding some really good shifts, and they're stretching away from the rest of the fleet. So Uruguay at the moment looks like they're running away with this race, with Italy 147, the boat front of picture. These are the top two in this race right now, and the front two sailing out quite hard to the left. Now we see Ferrarese and Chiesi tacking. How long will Uruguay stay on starboard tack before they tack back in towards the middle of the race course?
I would assume Uruguay tacking, here you see in the tracking, I would assume they would tack on top of Italy. That's the only boat they need to keep behind them. So according to the textbook, as we always like to refer to textbook.
What the textbook doesn't paint is where the holes and the patches and the breeze are on the water. So sometimes in this breeze, not covering the other boat, there are good reasons for doing so, and it could be that Uruguay just see a better patch of breeze on the left-hand side.
Right now we're showing, we have updated our scores a little bit for ourselves. The USA is now well into qualifying for the medal race. And but the Australians are still on the outside, and we're just looking down.
Well, Lukas Cibatek and Pavel Kolozinski, we just had that interview with Pavel Kolozinski. It's his final World Championship. Wouldn't it be wonderful if if he managed to get into the medal race, but they're just 1 point outside. Is that right?
They're 3 places. They're 3 places away from qualifying.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah, as this race goes.
Uruguay just tacked meanwhile, so they're very hard up on that left-hand lay line. So they've really committed to the left-hand side. But even they are not fully stretched. The helm is quite far into the boat, so there's not a lot of breeze. Back on board with the Polish Mikołaj Staniol and Jakub Storch. Mikołaj just looking over his shoulder, looking at when to tack. They're having a think about it.
They're at the moment 21st, around that, so quite far back at the fleet. I would say being further back behind mid-fleet, it's a tricky place to be, especially in light winds like these. Like, you just want to find like clear air, hoping there's a shift or something. The problem with the second upwind is that the boats are quite spread out, so it's difficult to make big gains compared in the first upwind. I feel like boats are more in a bunch, so it's easier to go past many boats if you do take risks, but you can't take the same risk and make the same advantage on a second upwind like this when everyone is just spread out the whole race course.
Well, looks very spread out from here, and Uruguay, just look at the gap back to the bulk of the fleet. They are absolutely running away with this race as they sail up the left-hand side of the course. And to the right of our screen, you can't see them, but there are 2 boats out there. Polish 19 and Netherlands 49 are overall title leaders. So the Netherlands have gone hard out to the left, just as they did on the first beat, which saw them into the lead in the first beat. But it's hard to imagine anyone's going to take this race away from Uruguay right now.
Yeah, and what a reversal of fortunes for the Netherlands, as it stands right now, that if things finish the way they are right now, that would put the Netherlands in second place overall, but still well into qualifying. And the Uruguayans, they kind of dug themselves a hole that they really couldn't get out of, so they're not in contention even with this win for qualifying for the medal race.
I think it would be at the moment really valid to note out to say that looking at the Dutch, they were struggling quite much, and in the beginning of this second upwind, they were quite in the middle of the race course, in the middle of the fleet, but now they have made the decision of going all the way to the left, meaning they're trying to take more risks and approach to the top mark from the outer side of race course. I'm not surprised seeing them doing it. They don't really have many options. They don't have much to lose, how should we say? Do they have much to lose?
Well,
I guess they have.
I need to check their discard to see.
Yeah, but they were quite far back in the fleet, so they really needed to get like a huge gain. And this is the only way how you can get a huge gain, is to go as far out as possible.
They've actually got a 21st that they are dropping at the moment, so they really don't want to be having to count a 21st. At the moment, they're not much better than that, but I think that's partly, it's a little bit misleading with the tracking when the boats sail this far over ley line. I think we'll find that the Dutch are still vying for the top 10.
I agree, they're probably in the top 10. Yeah.
But I really like what Nora's saying as the Uruguayans tack up to this second weather mark, that the Dutch are, they got their bow free. They just need to go fast, just like they did on that last beat, and that looks like it's paying. They're picking off boats as they go up this beat.
I'm talking about going fast.
Yeah.
We have the Uruguayan team. They're just flying.
Yeah,
look at that.
How big is that lead? Do you guys have?
Oh, it's 125 meters, but it's going to be more than that by the time the boats go round the windward mark. Ferrarese and Chiesi holding second place still quite comfortably. So they sailed an incredible first downwind leg, the Italians, and doing good work.
Yeah, they're even stretching out their legs. Did you see?
They're actually touching 9 knots at times upwind. So the breeze has picked up again a little bit, which is going to play into the hands of the Uruguayans, because it looks like the wind holes are filling in with breeze now. It looks a bit steadier across the race course. Korhonen and Bremer from Finland, we haven't mentioned them so far, and Mulleris and McDermott from USA, they're also up there. It looks like Mulleris and McDermott are going to be in third place around this mark.
I think huge gains were made the first downwind and then this upwind as well, so especially the Finnish made a huge gain from that.
Chibatek and Kolodzinski also going round in a good spot in fourth place. Fischer and Graf are up there. That's Fischer and Graf going across our screen And just tacking now, Peters and Sterrett going round in 7th place, a little bit better from the Great Britain team. Is this the Netherlands coming in? No, it's France 16, and now it's Netherlands 49. So Fischer and Graaf have got 3 boats between them and the Dutch team. So it's still very close between the top 2 in the overall standings. France 16 going round, bit of a messy jibe set, but they get it going. A cleaner jibe set by the Dutch, who are looking to roll over the top of the French, which they've already done. A really clean manoeuvre by the Dutch just there. Oh, sorry, I was seeing the Dutch too soon there. The Dutch hoisting on starboard. But whoever did that jibe set with the blue Jenica, that was a beautiful manoeuvre.
It looks like the jibe set is tricky. From the guys, but at least because there's good wind, good breeze now, so they're getting off quite quickly.
France 44 just going round. That's Fischer and Delpech, and there's Jakob Jensen crewing for Frederik Rask. They're just going round the windward mark with Denmark 7. I thought they were doing better than that, but we didn't see them doing terribly well at this point at the last windward mark, and somehow they got themselves back up into the top few. They're trying to roll over the top of India on that jibe set.
Lots of jibe sets that we're seeing, way more than the last time. In the last race, everyone elected to carry on starboard jibe until maybe like 11th, 12th, 13th place to do the jibe sets. Now this fleet has decided to get going to the right-hand side of the course a little bit earlier, and maybe that's a little sign that this sea breeze is starting to do what sea breezes are supposed to do and go right a little bit.
Yeah, we see the Uruguay on here, this yellow spinnaker in front of us. They have a lead of still, 240 meters.
And it looks more than that, doesn't it? But that's what we're being told on the tracking. That black Jenica just above them, that is Ferrarese and Chiesi from Italy. They're in second, but going down the right-hand side of the race course, Poland 42 starting to attack Italy, and also Molleris and McDermott, USA 43, beginning to threaten second-placed Italians. But those front 4 boats, the Uruguayans in particular, look like they're off and away, and this is going to be an incredible victory for Uruguay.
I just want to give everyone an update where we stand on the scores for qualifying, because this is the last fleet race, and then we go into the medal race this afternoon. The people who are on the bubble, Benjamin Bildstein, Austria 29, they are like a solid brick wall right now for the Poland 42 and France 44, because France 44 and Poland 42 are only 3 places back from the Austrian team, and if they can't make some moves to move from their 16th, I think Kevin Fischer, France 44, has a lot of room above their head to get out of 16th and to move up. They have the easiest chance versus Poland 42, who's in 4th place, but they don't have much room above their heads to qualify. So right now, Poland 42 and France 44 are being blocked by Austria 29 to get into the medal race. But I look for France 44. If they pick off 4 or 5 boats, they have a really good shot at getting into the medal race.
All right, thanks, Chris. Keep an eye on who's on the bubble and who's going to squeak through into the top 10 for the medal race later on this afternoon. We're looking at the Italians, but we're also getting very close to Uruguay down towards the finish. Uruguay just about to sail through the leeward gate marks, and then it will be the yellow Jenica that is going to be first across the finish line, first in the final of the qualifying race. They did actually win the second race of the series, so this is not the first time the Uruguayans will have taken the winner's gun, but what an incredible margin that they're winning by right now. It's 270 meters back to the next boat. So congratulations to Hernan Umpia and Fernando Diz from Uruguay. Probably traveled further than anybody else to get here and rewarded with winning their final race of these championships. We won't see them in the medal race this afternoon, but they can sail ashore satisfied that they've won the final race for their world championships.
Like such a fun way and an incredible way to end the championships with a win and with a lead like that.
And it's always a race to get back to the hoses, isn't it? To clean the boat down and
Exactly.
start packing up. It's always nice to be back ashore first after racing is over. But we've still got a lot of racing left in this particular heat of the championships. It's race 16. It's the Gold Fleet finals before the medal race this afternoon, when we find out who the brand new world champions of the 49er will be. It has to be brand new names because Pete Belling and Blair Tuke aren't here, and we have no previous world champions here. So it's down to a new team to decide who is going to become the new world title holders. Simone Ferrarese and Chiesi, they are coming down towards the finish. This is going to be second place for Italy across the finish line. You can see the Nacras waiting around for their race coming up shortly. We're going to be bringing you some action. Final jibe for Ferrarese.
That was a beautiful jibe. Like a calm jibe, and the wind is quite low. Still, there's not much wind down here at the finishing line, despite the Nacras in the background foiling around.
It's looking a little bit closer for third and fourth, but I think it looks like Mulleris and McDermott are going to take third place across the line for the USA. Good finish to their world championship. And then Lukas Cibatek and Pavel Kolodziński, that will be, well, they're on the bubble. I'm not going to write them out of the medal race yet, but that could well be the last jibe that Pavel Kolodziński, the crew, ever does in a 49er World Championship. Very long, illustrious career, more than 10 years in the class. And then in fifth place, Korhonen and Bremer, just getting across the line in fifth, and now it gets really busy. We got Peters and Sterrett up in the front few. This is a bit more like it from the vice world champions in the past. GBR 5 on their sail, one of the best in the fleet, but not on this particular occasion. They've got to remember how to sail this boat again. Peters and Sterrett finishing sixth across the line. Graf and Fischer just jibing there with the green Jenica. Now they are in world title contention. They look like they're going to get seventh across the line, followed by Henry and Davy on the far side. But Henry and Davy just accelerating at the end. I think the Germans just got it, but that was a real squirt of speed by the Australians, who really climbed up in this race. Next, it's Lambriax and Van der Werken. Can they get... No, it's going to be Poland that gets past them. They just miss out on a spot there, and they are in a photo finish with Hong Kong and Denmark on the far side. So that was really close. And I think that Lambriax and Van der Werken, according to the tracking, have come off worst out of those four boats. So they've just dropped 3 places right at the finish. As we see others come across, we see the Ireland, Dixon and Waterlove, India, Kalapanda and Thakkar, Bildstein and Hussel from Austria, Guilfoyle, Durkin also from Ireland, Hawkins and Thomas from Great Britain, just coming across the finish line. The red Jenica, Fischer and Pecan, France 16 crossing the line, and then a bit of a gap before we have the final few. That's Germany's Meggendorfer and Spranger. We have the Oman team skippered by Al Hadi. We have Fischer and Del Peck from France, and then the last few crossing the line after that. So I'm going to put you on the spot here a bit, Chris. Do we know who our final 10 are yet?
Yeah, we're close to figuring out. The one thing that we do know is that the Americans went from not qualifying to solidly qualifying. And
which Americans are they?
That's Mulleris and McDermott.
Okay, so they were third across the line in that race.
Exactly, USA 43. And the other thing that we do know is that Lambrix seems to have held their lead overall, so that's no big deal or no big news for us right now.
Despite the 4 boats just taking them before the finish.
They finished in 12th place. They have a 21st as a throwout, so they have to keep that 12th place.
Oh, just a bit of a photo finish here for the final few across the finish line. So
this might change something. Ian Burrows and
Hans
Henken, they just finished here, so not so well. We have to update our list here and see, will they drop in the results?
Yeah, they were pretty solidly into the qualifying, so it shouldn't change too much. Even they have a 12th as a drop race.
But that looked worse. That was 20. Okay, so that was 24. So that will be their discard. So they'll be counting the 12th. Okay, got it. Okay, so
almost there. We're just adding in the last little scores.
Just give us, are you able to give us your rundown yet of who the top 10 will be? Can we say that yet?
Absolutely. We can work our way down from here. So right now in first place is still Lambrix from the Netherlands, and then second, Germany. The formerly third place team, the Danish, they slipped to fourth, and ahead of them, Ian Barrows. Actually, we don't have that updated yet, actually. So we have to wait a second.
We can look at what happened this race. Just a quick summary of what was going on. We saw the Dutch going all the way to the left, looking really strong from there. They kind of, I would say they won the first upwind by going to the left and just squeezing in before the top wind mark. Then in the downwind, they stayed on the left side, but the fleet from the right came through and left side got left behind. So the right side worked going downwind. And the second upwind, that's when I lose it now. Can you, Andy, say what happened the second upwind? Just a quick...
The second upwind was where the Uruguayans went out to the left with the Italians. So the top two were going out that way. And then Lambrix and Floris van der Werken went hard left again.
Try to get some gain from there.
Yes. So they repeated what they did. They went hard left, both beats.
But the boat that was shining the most was clearly Uruguay. They were just flying in this race.
Yes, they absolutely were. But if, as you say, Chris, that they only weigh 60 kilos each, if that's a total of 120 kilos in the boat, then that would explain why they look about 1 knot faster upwind and at least 1 knot faster downwind, which is always a nice advantage to have, isn't it?
It's like 1 star crew sailing in 49er.
Yes.
Yeah, but they're like 40 kilos less than probably the most or the average. So.
But we certainly don't want to take anything away from their
No, it's incredible.
They're incredible sailors. It's really great to see them have all these successes, winning the Asian champs, winning a couple races at the World Championships, ending by winning the last race at a World Championship. That you can't take that away from anyone.
And as you said, like good sailors also, if you come to the front or you're at the front, you don't know what to do. You have to know what to do at the front. So just the benefit of being light and having a good boat speed don't win races.
Right. They were also confident enough to sail away from the other sailors. So when we thought maybe the conservative move was to tap back into the middle, they kept on sailing out towards the left, allowing more separation and more leverage for the people behind, but obviously seeing what they liked and sailing to the breeze rather than sailing to the fleet. So I thought they were sailing with confidence as well.
Well, let's go down through the list. We do know now the standings of the top 10. And actually, Andy, I'm going to have you read this out because you can pronounce the last name so well.
Okay. Well, in first place we have Lambrix from the Netherlands. In second, Fischer from Germany. In third, Barrows from USA. Rask from Denmark in fourth place. In fifth place, Buksak from Poland. In sixth place, Dixon from Ireland. In seventh place, Mollerus from USA. Another Polish boat in, what number am I? 8th place, Staniel. And 9th place, Benjamin Bildstein. Good to see the Austrians just squeaking into the medal race. And then Lukas Cibatek and Pavel Kolozinski in 10th place. So Pavel Kolozinski, hanging up his boots, he's just sailed one more. He's got one more race to sail in his 49er career because he's just squeezed in to the medal race. So he will be delighted about that, and we are delighted for him. But I want to come back to the finish line for the Dutch. Netherlands 49. They they were sailing as hard as they could, but they were just pipped to the post by Hong Kong, a Polish boat and somebody else. I can't remember who it was, but that is significant because they are on 81 points now. Tim Fischer is on 83, but because of the nature of the medal race, double points, effectively that means that they are now in a who beats who situation. They are now in a straight match race with Germany. It would have been so nice for the Dutch to have just had another boat between to get across the line one boat earlier in that final race, and then that would have meant that Germany would need to have got a boat between them and the Dutch to be able to beat them. But as it is, Germany goes in level pegging with the Dutch. At the same time, America is only 12 points off the lead, so they can't rule out the fact that Ian Barrows is only 10 points behind, which is only 5 places in the race. So we've got also others in contention, like the Danes on 105 points. That means they can't get back to first or second, I think, but the Danes could get back to bronze medal. So the Americans have to look over their shoulder at the Danes and possibly the Polish Dominik Buksak as well.
I would imagine saying, we can talk more just before the medal race as well. What are the strategies and how will we see the boats, who will be matching who and how they would set up their strategy.
Yeah, and I think looking at those top two, we've seen it before. We saw it in the last World Championships. We've seen it in Olympics, where if they spend too much time playing with each other, Netherlands and Germany, there's just enough room for if they get stuck in the back of the pack and they can't come back through the fleet, one of them, then they both lose. There's a very good chance that if they get stuck messing around with each other, they can't have an agreement together to say, let's not let ourselves get too far back. But it happens. You can get really tunnel visioned here. And I think two big picture things that I'd like to point out is that Poland has 3 teams in the top 10. And I think Pavel should be really excited and happy that he's leaving his career in the 49er with a World Championships with probably the most number of Polish teams. And actually, is there any other country that has more than 2?
Well, USA has 2, right?
2, yep. Germany has 2. And
but Poles are the most populous.
They're dominant. So I don't think that's in any small contribution from Pavel that's happening. That team really looks up to him, and the sailors in the 49er fleet look up to him. He's a leader.
Yeah. So great legacy to leave behind him, and maybe we should be neutral about this. We're commentators, but it'd be sort of quite nice if they won the medal race, wouldn't it?
That would be nice. Of course, a little medal race win before end of your career.
I also pleased to see Bildstein and Hussel from Austria just squeak into the medal race as well. They've had a tough time of it. They're a world-class team, struggling a little bit with boat speed this week, and maybe they need a bit of a mental reset after a really hard Olympic campaign.
Yeah, I was talking with them and they said they're gonna take some proper time off after this. A longer, maybe 5-6 months, so we'll see them in a while. I guess they need it, and they're actually using the same boat here as at the Olympics, and they weren't doing so well at the Olympics, even though the lead up towards the Olympics was great. So they're not too happy about the boats, so I think they need to get, is it then the boat or what it is, but...
They need to get one of those Abu Dhabi boats, don't they? One of those 2014 vintage edition boats that the Norwegian 49erFX girls have.
Yeah, so as we look at the spread of these points, it's like only from 5th down to 8th or 9th, that's like only between 12 and 15 points. So this top 10 is super tight. The top 2 can't just match race each other, otherwise they will miss out on the gold medal. and there's still, 3rd and 4th place has a shot at it.
Yeah, we're going to go into a quick ad break, and then we will be back to you very shortly for the start of the Nacra race. It's just a few minutes away. Stay with us. Back to you soon. We have just over 1 minute to the start of the final qualifying race of the Nacra 17 World Championships before we have the medal race later on this afternoon. So we got 15 boats on the race course at the moment. Currently holding the lead, 6 points is the advantage to John Gibson and Burnett, the reigning world champions, looking to see if they can make it 2 in a row for Great Britain. Behind them, Gianluigi Ugolini and Maria Jubilei from Italy, who have been leading for much of the week but slipped back a little bit. They're still in second, and just 3 points behind them is Koloff and Stulehmer from Germany, the bronze medalists from the recent Olympic Games. So Nora, we've got a bit of a stack up at the right hand end of the line by the committee boat. What do you think the thinking is going on there?
It looks similar like the 49er race in the beginning, but there were indeed more boats down at the pin end the previous race. It just seems like, right is more favored. People want to be able to go to right, probably tack straight away. We might see someone starting on port. Let's see if it's too light winds for that.
They looked like they were going to try and get across the front of the fleet just then. That could have been risky.
That was like a attempt of doing port start, but they didn't manage.
And Germany just has to squeeze round the pin end, but it does look like it was worth doing because it looks a little bit port end biased, don't you think? Don't you think Germany have the early advantage here, Chris?
Absolutely, and especially with fast boats, like Nora was saying yesterday, just to have your bow free, have the opportunity to put your bow down, add a little bit more power to the boat, and scoot out, just like Germany just did there. They needed a second just to get a little bit further forward. They put their bow down, got a little further forward, then trimmed in tight, and came up right in line with Jared and Johnson from Sweden, which they're not going to like that. Their bow is not free. But above them, Austria is free and doesn't have anyone around them, and look to them to be able to decide where they want to go. I kind of like where the Austrians are right now, but we have to see what this breeze does. About a third of the fleet is split off onto port tack, and it's I think the port tackers are actually getting up the track a little bit quicker. As you saw, starboard tack was a little down, so this group might be holding itself up for a little too long.
Yes, I like where the Germans started, but as you just mentioned, Chris, the port tackers are maybe going quite quickly, and I wonder if there is a little bit more breeze on the right-hand side. What do you think, Nora?
I was looking at it as well. It looks like there would be more breeze on the right-hand side, but they were still going really slow when, as Chris said. So let's see, because we also can see the Germans here. They're getting some good breeze. It's quite clear who is in the gust and who is not. You see how the boat starts heeling more than the others, and also a significant speed difference.
I think you're right. It seems like the breeze is coming good on this side of the course, and Germany actually now the fastest boat on the race course. So Germany beginning to stretch their legs out towards the left, and if they wanted, I think they could probably tack and cross the fleet right now.
Yeah, this angle looks, at least the photo angle is really beautiful. It looks like they could do a tack and make it just before the other boats on starboard.
If the breeze was
like
even, Nora, what would you do if you were Germany right now?
I would probably tack and go, let's say, above these 6 boats you see just behind them.
Mm-hmm. And why is that?
Just to, still continue going left, but just to what am I trying to say?
Let's see. Here's the moment of truth.
Yeah.
They've been listening to you two, and they just saying, you know what? Let's just get on with it. Let's tack. So they have now tacked, and they are crossing successfully the rest of the fleet. What a beautiful feeling that is, to be able to do that relatively soon after the start, and you've been vindicated with your brave start at the pin end, and that's the reward that you get. So Germans very much in control of their side of the race course at the moment.
And looking from this point of view, it just looks like the Germans constantly have more wind. At least the boat seems to go faster. The other pontoon is further up, or at a hull of the further up than the others. Look at the Swedes; they're just going really flat. It just doesn't look as quick as the Germans.
No, I
Simple
think
as
you're right.
that.
They are one of the fastest boats on the water. They're doing just over 8 knots of boat speed, and most of the other boats have been doing between 6 and 7 knots. So things just getting better for Koloff and Stulehmer at the moment.
But if we see Jared and Johnson, they are on the bubble to get into the medal race. They are a new team, even though Jared sailed in, I think he sailed in the Olympics. And was he the Swedish team?
Yes, the Swedish team with Cecilia. And they're new. They sailed not long together, in 3 months or something like that.
Absolutely, and they are in 11th place overall going into this last race before the medal race. This is the decider for them, but right now, if they stay in the top group, they're having a great race. They're doing what they need to do to extend their regatta. But one thing we do know is that the Germans, who are sitting in 3rd place overall, I think they're definitely going to be in the medal race no matter what happens. But I've really enjoyed talking about this pair. I'm looking forward to talking to them and seeing where they end up in this regatta.
Oh yeah, let's come back to them in a moment. Just want to let you know it's a clear start off the line, so everyone is still in the hunt. So what we see is what we get. Clear start off the line.
Just about the Swedish Nacra Järud, actually they sailed only 14 days together or something like that. I want to take it back because 3 months is more than 14 days.
Yes.
So it's incredible sailing that little and just entering the event an event like this.
Right, and 4th place, Tim Morniak and Lou Bartholomew. I talked to them this morning. They've only been sailing together for 2 weeks, so this is really fascinating to see how teams are putting their regatta together. There's definitely a defined split to this fleet right now. If I trust that footage was showing us too, that this really tight pack going off to the right. We'll see what comes up, but Germany, Finland's been one of the fastest boats on the course, coming out of the middle left side of the course. Are doing great.
And it looks funny that the right side is like a tight pack, but that's the pack that tacked straight after the start. Those are the boats that wanted to be were all the way to the committee boat. Started from there, and that's why they're so close to each other. And now they're starting to tack on the ley line. Let's see, are they actually on the ley line or just beneath in the actual world?
Yeah, we can't necessarily trust those lines on the tracker with the different boats and boat speed, because as the breeze changes, their tacking
line
angles
changes.
get very dramatic. But the one thing we do know is that the distances are correct, and we know that Germany is rocketing up the middle of the course. It looked like Finland, maybe the right side was crossing Finland and they decided to tack underneath them. I think that's really telling to see what's happening with the right side of the course, that Finland decided not to get closer in touch with that group to the right. They were the first kind of feeler, if you want to call it that, to see how the middle was working.
And I'm surprised. I'm interested, and I really want to see how Italy in '98, Ugolini and Jubilee will be doing after this upwind, because I heard that they're quite good in lighter breeze, and the breeze is still quite light, as we could see. It's kind of like kicking in. We will see more breeze throughout the day, but still they were still going quite, yeah.
But it looks
slow.
like Germany, front of picture now, has quite a healthy lead over the rest of the fleet, particularly the boats coming across from the right-hand side of the race course. Koloff and Stulehmer now leading by about 80 metres from the boat behind them. We can't see them in picture. Austria, Ferrezi and Zockling. So there's the tack there from Germany. Does that define the ley line? It could well be that's the final tack of this first windward leg. We're on the final day of the World Championships for the Nacra 17, along with the 49er and 49erFX skiffs in Oman. And this is the final qualifying race for the Nacra 17 fleet. 15 boats will go down to 10 for the medal race, the double counter final decider this afternoon. And at the moment, Germany lying in third place, maybe looking to move a little bit further up the rankings going into that medal race this afternoon.
It's nice to see this camera angle too. I'm trying to identify the boats kind of coming up the middle, but the reason why we've always looked at the course from the left side of the course is that we wanted the viewers to always know, what was up and what was down, and keep consistently with that. So if other people were saying, why can't I see from the right side of the course? It's so visually you can always, be comfortable with what's up and what's down.
Yeah, it is hard to remember what's up and what's down on a race course when you're watching it from a TV, which is why we have that rule in TV production. So this is breaking the rule a little bit, but it gives us that different perspective, which I'm enjoying as well.
And I like it how we have the tracking showing all like occasionally, because then you see and you understand like where the boats are actually going, how the fleet is riding around the course or sailing around the course.
Yeah. And at the moment the breeze has dropped down, so even Koloff and Stülemer have dropped down to just 5 knots of breeze. Svensson and Dachammer, the fastest boat on the racetrack, and now Gibson and Burnett. So there are bursts of speed, which could mean that others are closing in on the Germans, but it does seem to be a little bit lighter and softer up towards the top of this race course. Still looks like Germany is going to be leading comfortably around this first mark, though.
It seems like a big hole in the wind here that will affect everyone. I don't think anyone can escape it. There's maybe some boats trying to approach from the left, from the port ley line, but mostly it looks like the starboard ley line will be coming in hot.
So that blue Jenica up and set already. Alissa Stülemer has hoisted it. Paul Koloff, tallest man in the fleet, steps out on the trapeze, joined by Stülemer. They're struggling to get round the gate mark. It's quite the spacer mark. It's quite a tight one, but they managed to get round without hitting it. And now they're off and away while the rest of the fleet still come round. It's Svensson and Dachammer in a fight with Gibson and Burnett, but it's the reigning world champions that go round in second place. Up goes the Union Jack, Anna Burnett getting that set, and the Swedes getting the Jenica set just behind them, struggling to fully sheet the chiton because it's a tight one across the top here between the windward mark and the spacer mark, and behind them it's the Austrian team of Ferrezi and Zockling, who go round in 4th place, followed by the Dutch Van der Meer and Bauer.
It's funny to see. You can see how it's tricky to choose when to pull up the spinnaker. You kind of want the boat foiling, but once the crew starts pulling up the spinnaker, it always, like almost every time, stops foiling, and then you lose some speed. So you really want to be like tactically about the timing of it.
Yeah, and I think the Nacra have an advantage compared to the other boats like the FXs and the skiffs, because those Jenicers are really flat. So they can put them up early and let them luff, whereas if you did that on a 49er, you'd capsize immediately.
Yeah, you
Sweden struggling to get round. Finland just getting round the front of the Swedes, accelerating. And this is, I like how this course has been set. It's giving them a real tactical challenge as to what to do here.
It's not an easy decision.
It's not. I think maybe we're looking at the Italians here. But this is not going well for the Italians, either of the Italian teams right now. So a bit of catch up to do for Ugolini and Jubilee. That's the Germans way out in front. Look at the advantage, 250 meters to Koloff and Stülemer ahead of the second place boat, Gibson and Burnett. So absolutely scorching performance, and it can all be traced back to that pin end start that the Germans achieved when they just wiggled round the front of the pin end boat, and how they've converted that small advantage to the start now to an advantage of 270 meters and growing.
What a beautiful shot of them, just easily up on the foils in probably 8 knots of breeze. They're doing 16 knots, and you were right, they got that pin end start and they were down. The whole fleet was down. Luckily that left hand angle lasted a really long time, and when Norris said, hey, it's time to go, they listened and and they solidified that gain. You know, it's not a real shift unless you tack on it.
And Chris, if you can just do a little bit of homework, I know you will be anyway, but it would be interesting to know what effect that has and getting them in towards the top two, because they were third, the Germans, going into today's racing in the overall standings. They've got the number 3 on their sail, which I should have checked. I guess that means they were third at the last Worlds, and they were third at the Olympic Games. Let's see if they can improve on third place here in Oman at the World Championships.
Yeah, there was an 8-place gap between them and GBR, so that's kind of the number we're looking at.
Right, okay.
8-point gap.
So GBR is only 1 place behind them. So even though the gap is now up to 414 meters, can you believe?
Incredible.
They don't give you any more for the distance.
They don't give you any more. You don't get any bonus points for the additional 400 meters of advantage.
I think sometimes you should. It just feels like that.
I agree. I agree. You know, like points for style.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You should get points for a backflip when you know, like if you celebrate in a certain way, you should get points for that as well.
Agreed.
So the Germans just coming down towards the bottom of the course, and they have the absolute pick of the course. There's a bit more bad air for them to think about as they go up the left-hand side, but
Can we look at the US all the way to the right? What's happening? You see their angle is just changing towards the gate.
they went round in
there.
15th place, in last place, I'm pretty sure.
I'm not sure if they will be doing again, since the British, you can see that they have the same kind of angle going pretty down, so maybe it's a right-hand shift. But it looks good though. They at least tried. Like, they're taking some risk.
They're one of the fastest boats on the race course. We're talking about Parent and Stone on the right-hand side, USA 32. And I'm pretty sure they were 15th at the top mark. They were the only boat to jibe set, and look what it's doing for them right now.
Yeah, they are 17 points out of China poking through into the top 10 and qualifying for the medal race. So it's a long stretch for them, and the closest are Sweden 439 with more like 9 points to get into the top 10.
So there are the Italians charging downwind on port jibe.
Here's a perfect view of the balance that's needed. That flight controller, the crew. Sometimes it's the steering, but a lot of times it's the crew moving back and forth. Right now it seems like there's a lot of steering being done to keep the boat up on the foils. So there's probably two different modes of controlling your ride height. One is the steering, and then the crew doing little hits forward. You saw her step forward and knock the bow back down because they were getting too high.
Ugolini and Jubilee, they've been leading this World Championship for much of the week, but they have slipped back behind Gibson and Burnett, and at the moment they are in 11th place. They've climbed a couple of places, but this race is not really doing them any favours at the moment. They've got a lot of work to do.
If you remember yesterday, they were motoring up those beats, working really well together, just climbing through the fleet. We saw that they were focused. They seemed pretty relaxed, and there's a lot more race course left in this last fleet race.
Yes, well, the Americans have been proving what's possible on the far side of the race course, but most boats have come down the conventional left-hand side of the course. Around goes Svensson and Dackhammer in third place for Sweden.
It looks like they're in first, doesn't it?
It does. But they are 260 metres behind the leaders. So jibe round by the French on the far side and the Dutch going round the left-hand side. Meanwhile, Koloff and Stulem are still comfortably in front in this race, and Gibson and Burnett from Great Britain in second, consolidating their lead in the overall championship and looking to repeat the world title they won in Geelong last year.
And the Dutch are one of, I think it's 3 teams that have female skippers. It's awesome that we're seeing, with more opportunities, with more time in these high performance classes and mixed teams, that more and more women are steering. And I have some stats on that I'll bring up later on.
Yarud and Johnson going round the right-hand side, and then it's Saima, Pedersen and Brun Boroskov coming round in 7th place. So the Swedes in 6th, the Danes in 7th, and next it's going to be in 8th place Parent and Stone. So a good gain for them. 7 places gained on this run for the Americans from doing that early jibe set. But the boats are pretty flat to the water. There's not much breeze down here, so all that exciting foiling turns into fairly straightforward, basic upwind sailing. Not much prospect of lifting a hull at the moment, even down here at the bottom of the course. A jibe by Ugolini and Jubilee. They are up into 9th place, so a small gain for Italy, while Finland, Kirkbay and Keskinen have dropped back a little bit. They need to invert that main as they go round. There it flips, and Argentina going round the right. Italy, Bissero and Frascari going round to the left in 11th place.
Both of the Italians have some work to do after these. Yeah, maybe
they do.
For the second beat.
It's not a good race for either of the Italian teams right now. A lot of work to do, as you say, Nora. Ferrezi and Zockling from Austria. I think that's a poor run for them. I think they were further up.
Ooh.
Bit of a cartwheel by Crane and Atwood as they just get their Red Jenica down round the right-hand gate, and that is the bird's eye view. And look at that lead that Germany hold. It's only 205 metres only from Great Britain in second, but it's going to extend to more than 400 metres again when they turn that top mark, provided of course that something silly or funny doesn't happen with the wind between now and then.
Yeah, that's a pretty comfortable lead from them, and we can expect them probably holding the lead on until the end. This is the second beat of the only fleet racing today, and after this we will see some really exciting medal races. So this will be the final race for many of the teams.
I know we were talking earlier about Julia going back to the women helms, then we won't talk about it too much more, but we were talking about equal sailing, and the goal is to make it just normal, the level of women sailors versus men sailors, because we know that the capabilities are all there. About a third of the fleet have women helm here, which is it's a bigger percentage than the last Worlds in 2020. And just as a comparison, at the Olympic Games, 3 of the 12 Olympic races were won by women helms in the Nacra fleet, and let's see, women were 4th and 6th in women helms in the Nacra in the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah, and we were talking the other day about what's the advantage of having women or men or whoever as a crew or a skipper, but the roles are just really different, and yeah, we could see a lot. I don't really see what the difference is. Women just need more experience. Yeah, that's the word. Thank you. And more experience in foiling and in this class especially. So we'll probably see that number rise to the next Worlds or Olympics at least.
Yeah, it's nice to see that it's just time that's changing it, and it is working.
So we're looking at Sojma Pedersen and Brun Boriskov from Denmark at the moment, and that is one example of a female helm that we're looking at right there. Natasha Violet Sojma Pedersen, that's why I don't say her whole name all the time.
And also coached by a female coach.
And who is that?
Lynn
Senholt, who was, what, 4th at the Games?
Yeah, pretty sure she was 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool to see. Women coaches as well. It's like haven't seen too many of those, but it's getting more and more normal.
Yeah, we learned from the last Worlds that it was really important for a female sailor to see a woman in that role. They don't get those opportunities to see women coaching at World Championships and at the Olympic Games. And now that they're starting to see it, and they say, "Hey, that looks like me. That looks like something I can do." They just need to see themselves.
It's really inspirational. Yeah.
It's happening.
Back with the leaders in this race, Germany 3 led from start to finish so far. Koloff and Stulema, their lead is down to 160 metres ahead of John Gibson and Anna Burnett from Great Britain, but 160 metres, not too much for the Germans to worry about right now. And they're both on trapeze, and they are the fastest boat on the water right now, doing a touch over 9 knots, compared with Gibson and Burnett, for example, doing about 7 knots. So they seem to be in the right place on the racetrack, and that will be their last tack of the race. They are now on the ley line for the Windward Mark final time, so opportunities are running out for anybody else to be able to attack. But we do know that on this race course, the jibe set can be very difficult to defend against. There are opportunities down the right hand side of the race course, and so it's never over until it's over, but at the moment it is a pretty healthy lead for Germany ahead of Great Britain.
Yeah, and we don't see, right now as things stand, unlike the 49er race we just watched, we don't see any big shakeups going on into the top 10. We still have Sweden 439 and Austria 97, and USA just outside of, actually Austria and USA just outside of the medal race. So it's going to be hard for Austria to get into that position, but actually there's only one point, 1, 2, 3. Actually, 3 points are separate 10th from 12th. So it's actually a lot closer than I thought. So that's between Sweden 439, Austria 97, USA 32. Also Denmark 31, who we were just watching there. I think there's they're a little bit closer too. So if they drop any more places, they're in jeopardy of missing out on their medal race.
Right, okay, so still a lot to play for the sailors behind.
Looking at the Germans, they look really comfortable in their lead. And I was talking with Alicia Stuhlemer just earlier today, and she was saying they had problems with the container, so they only got the boat like 2-3 days before the event, and they felt like in the beginning of the event they were still like reminding how to sail this specific boat, because they haven't sailed this boat since February this year. They'll be only using their Olympic boat, and this is the other boat they have. Sort of laughing like, oh, the systems are so dated, because you know the sailors, they update the systems of their boats so that everything works flawlessly, and the update might be every half a year even. So they were just saying they're still learning to sail this boat, but I guess they're getting to the height of it, the best part of the sailing now. They found their speed, going quick.
I don't think I've heard any sailor this week say, I love my boat. I think my boat is amazing. Everyone seems to be complaining about how they're using their spare boat because of containering boats around the world and boats being stuck in Tokyo or wherever they were previously. People seem to be using their second or third choice boat. So I haven't really got sympathy for any of them. They should just shut up and get on sailing.
Do you think it's just the weather? Like, it's been really tricky with the shifts and gusts, and that they're blaming all on the boat, you know? It's better to blame it on the boat than on the crew or on the skipper, you know?
I mean, you know what it's like. You both know what it's like as a sailor. You do want the comfort of a boat that's really tuned to within an inch of its life. But in the end, how much does it really make a difference? How much is in our heads? Anyway, Koloff and Stuhlemer going really nicely downwind. They are 240 meters ahead and growing ahead of the rest of the fleet. But breathing down the back of the necks of the Great Britain team are the Swedes, and it's much closer behind. These are the only team that are comfortable at the moment.
I'm just amazed by this footage. It looks so cool, and especially seeing how they move in the boat, and the boat is just foiling perfectly. The water is flat, so there's a nice gust, nice breeze coming.
So coming round in second place, that's John Gibson, Anna Burnett, followed by the Swedes Svensson and Dackhammar, and then a little bit of a gap back to the Dutch, Van der Meer and Bauer. So a good race for the Dutch, and coming in behind them Morniak and Bertomeu. But as you can see, there are a few gaps between boats, so someone's going to need to try something different, maybe the early jibe, if they're going to go on the attack on this final downwind leg to the finish.
It's really impressive with that French team. I talked to them a little bit. Unfortunately, a lot of their answers were in French because I was recording them for the French media. But for 2 weeks together as a team and new, and they're in one of those situations just like we were talking about with the Dutch leaders of the FX. They're with a new team, and because one team member was injured. But if they do so well at this championship, what do you do?
I know that dilemma. Well, do you stick or go back to the original team that you were with? It's a real tricky one. So coming round, Jeruden Jönsson from Sweden, followed by the Danes Saima Pedersen and Brun Boriskov, and coming up next, USA 32 Parent and Stone. Good recovery from last place at the beginning, last time round actually, a lap ago they were in last place, and now they're in 8th. And going downwind in second and third place, the Swedes on the left are chasing Great Britain on the right. This is the battle for second and third. No one's going to take first place away from Germany. They are going to be the runaway winners of this race. They have now stretched their lead to exactly half a kilometre, just over 500 metres, the advantage for Germany over the second place boat that we see here. Great Britain just going into a jibe, bit of windward heel. Always look a bit strange going through these jibes, but very effective and very much back up to speed again. John Gibson and Anna Burnett, the reigning world champions, also leading this championship as they come down to the finish for the final time of qualifying. Just the medal race to go this afternoon, when the top 10 boats in this fleet will line up again against each other in a double pointer non-discardable race.
Go ahead.
Germany coming down towards the finish, just a few seconds away from crossing the finish line. and Koloff and Stulem are still working the boat hard all the way to the finish. They almost got this advantage up. It's just about to click up to 600 meters is the advantage, and it's
incredible.
still growing.
Look at this beautiful footage. It's awesome. The water's so clear. You can see how angled in the foils are, and here they go, exalted across the finish line. Look at that, with a little pat on the shoulder as they go across the line. They're really excited, and they have more racing to do. There's no relaxing after the final race, is there?
Looks like there's a passing move by the Dutch over the Swedes, so that the Dutch have just swept past the Swedes like they were standing still, but both boats are doing a good 15 knots or so, but really good sailing there by the Dutch. So that winning advantage just then was 650 meters across the finish line, and we are looking at the third and fourth place boats. Gibson and Burnett out of picture, but Gibson and Burnett, the reigning world champions, are going to cross the finish line in second place, and the Dutch have sailed an amazing race. Van der Meer and Bauer from the Netherlands look like they have just taken third place from Svensson and Dackhammer, and it'll be interesting to see if they can hold on to that.
It's like a speed race to the finish here. They're doing like 16, 15 knots here, and looks amazing. Who can be the quickest?
And it's amazing with this class. You saw everyone coming up to the weather mark, sitting in, crowded around the mast. The crew is crowded around the mast and doing 6 knots, 7 knots, and then doing 16 knots downwind. This is that kind of special crossover where the delta between upwind and downwind is really, really dramatic. I think we don't want to discount the Swedish team is Svensson and Dackhammer. They weren't quite on our radar screen for having a shot at qualifying, and we'll just have to wait to see how these results come out. But right now, the Jared, the other Swedish team, is right on the bubble in 10th place.
Just a final jibe in before the finish.
Gibson and Burnett taking second place. Very consistent performance by the reigning world champions, and then very, very close across the line. I'm not sure who got that in the end. I think it was the Dutch that just held on to third, but only by less than a boat length, half a boat length. Oh, it looks like the Swedes actually. So Sweden might have just stole it back at the end and might be third place for Svensson and Dackhammer. Photo finish between them and the Dutch, Van der Meer and Bauer, who their good work was undone just at the end, having overtaken the Swedes, but the Swedes stealing it back right at the last gasp. And then the French, Mouniac and Bertomieux, coming across in 5th place, and then a bit of a gap before we get back to the Danes on the left-hand side of the screen. Sayoma Pedersen and Brun Boriskov looking pretty certain for 6th place across the finish line.
It even looked like the Dutch, they chose to take the pin end to finish on the other end of the finish line, and I think they maybe lost some distance on that, especially because they were coming in from the right side.
We'll find out if there's any further significance to that change of 3rd and 4th place right at the end. We'll update you on that. Sweden, Jarud and Jonsson coming across in 7th place. And then a long way back, another 300 metres back to Parent and Stone. Things have really stretched out on this race course. It's almost 800 metres back to the last place boat right now, and bearing in mind that the finishers, the winners, finished a couple of minutes ago already. This is Parent and Stone coming in for 8th place across the line. They made that good gain with the early jibe set. They were in last place early on in this race, but they got up to about 8th or 9th by the leeward gate, and they've held on to that place ever since then.
So looking at the boats further in the back, I think they lost the most the second upwind, because the fleet went more to the right, or wanted to be the first ones on the starboard ley line, and they just couldn't make it. They were like late going into the starboard ley line, and the ones that went the latest to starboard ley line, they're the ones that come now in the back of the fleets.
Awesome, and I think I'm going to give everyone an update here on who made it into the medal race. USA just crosses the line right now, and they didn't. USA had a shot at it during this race, and they finished 5 places out of 10th place. It was really the big change here that changed from the beginning of the day was Sweden 439. Emil Jared and Hannah Johnson just moved up from 11th into 10th. and displaced the poor Austrians that finished, put them back in 11th, and with only 2 points apart. So the Swedish just make it into the medal race, and they displace the poor Austrians. I feel bad.
May I say Järryd and Jonsson?
Yes. You can say Järryd and Jonsson.
You did it well.
Ugolini and Jubilee across the line in 9th, closely followed by Kurtbay and Keskinen from Finland in 10th. Here come the Argentinians Magdalani and Bosco across the line in 11th. And Bissaro and Frascari, the 2019 world champions, bit of a lackluster race for them, and not quite firing on all cylinders this week for what is normally a very high performing team.
Yeah, matching their throwout with a, does that show them in 12th? Yeah, it's matching their throwout with a 12th. But you know what? It's in the middle race, and the points spread to get a medal. Whew.
Well, Crane and Atwood are across the line in 13th, ahead of Ferrazzi and Zockling in 14th, and bringing up the rear is Rubin and Rita Booth from Australia. So that concludes the qualifying racing for Nacra 17. About 3 o'clock this afternoon, that's just over an hour and a half from now, is when we expect medal racing to come back in.
I would like to go through to summarize the race a bit, what happened during this race and what were the big differences. It seemed like the first upwind and the second upwind was more left. That's where it was more left favored, and that worked. But the second upwind, that's where everything changed. As I said earlier, you wanted to be the first one on the starboard ley line. And since they had already run both of the beats on the left side, now moving to the right side, it was like, who knew you had to be there unless you could see it in the wind. So that's where most of the boats lost, the ones further back, which is unfortunate, and some other boats did definitely some gains there. The final downwind was more maybe left favored, but of course people were trying to make some gains just before in the last downwind. That's the final time where you can actually make any gains if you're not happy with your position. So there was some earlier jibe sets like the finish, and the others coming more from the right side.
Great, thank you very much for that, Nora. There's a lot more we could talk about, and I did want to talk about the rudder elevators and what you interviewed Ravi about, but it seems like a long time ago. But we're seeing the World Championship with the Nacras for the last time in this configuration before they go to this higher level of foiling. There's sort of 3/4 foiling at the moment. We might see them fully foiling and foiling upwind on a much more consistent basis.
Yeah, it seems like it's been baby steps for this class. Like, they wanted to get a new catamaran in that had the potential to do really great things. They knew about foiling, back before the Rio games, but it was too soon to put in hydrofoils. And then between the games, they put in hydrofoils, but just the dagger boards, and and with T-foils now. And now they're going to be adjusting the angle of the rudder, and that's really going to change really improve the foiling to more consistent foiling around the course.
Okay, just to update you, you're watching us on one stream. I'm not a very technical person, and maybe you're not either, but this is where you just need to sit up and pay attention. There is a different stream for you to watch the medal race finals this afternoon. So this stream that you're watching us on now will go down, and you need to go to 49er.org and look for the new stream to click on to make sure that you catch all the action from all 3 medal races this afternoon, which we believe will start about 90 minutes, an hour and a half from now. That's 3 o'clock local time in Oman, and that's to allow time for protests to be heard. And I hear from the 49er class, from the men, that there is a protest between Denmark 7 and Netherlands 49 that must be held before the medal race, and let's remember that Netherlands 49 are actually leading this championship overall, so this is not insignificant.
And Denmark 7 is currently 4th, so it could change if one of them gets a disc.
Right. So if there is a discard or something like that, Bart Lambriek's in the lead being protested. He's on 81 points. Tim Fischer from Germany on 83 points in second place. The Americans, skippered by Ian Barrows, USA 84 in third place, 10 points behind second place on 93. And in fourth place are the Danes on 105 points. So Frederik Rask and Jakob Jensen are protesting Bart Lambriek's and Van Werken from the Netherlands. So that could be a significant outcome. And if that protest were to go through and there was to be a disqualification, I'm guessing that maybe Tim Fischer and Fabian Graf would move to the top of the standings, with Germany going through into the medal race in the gold medal position. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, before we sign off and before we come back on to the new stream, remember, new stream later on, and you can watch this in a number of places: Vimeo, YouTube. All those links are available on 49er.org. I just want to, while we're here, Oman has been great, hasn't it? I mean, really, really cool place. Fantastic weather. Really, really beautifully looked after. Really friendly people. Amazing food, and for me to escape a British winter at this time of year I'm feeling very happy about that. What have your impressions been? I'll start with you, Nora. What's your impression of Oman?
I think the impression, which I had never been in this country or here before. I think the people are just really nice and helpful and kind, and I think that's really nice. The culture is just really different from how it is back in Finland, so that's why I wasn't sure what to expect. But I'm just really happily surprised of how nice it is to be here, and the food is, by the way, it's amazing. It is.
And Chris?
Well, I mean, to start off, I'm surprised. So how pleasant and warm the weather is, how much clothes people wear. But it's very much a cultural thing. It's probably a thing to keep the sun off too. But I've been loving learning about the local attire, the local passion for the sea that Oman and Oman Sail has really decided to really latch on to, only over the last 10 or 15 years that Oman Sail has really started to create programs for women sailing, children sailing, ocean sailing, partnering up with famous French sailors like Sidney Gavinier, doing ocean racing records, doing pro sail, extreme sailing series, and now the Olympics. Oman is, having their, first ever gold fleet in the 49er. They celebrated like it was an Olympic medal, and I think it's really exciting. But as far as the country's concerned, the weather's beautiful. It's not called a hurricane. What's it called? They had some kind of major...
They're all the same thing, just called a different name. Yeah. And I can't remember what it's called locally.
Storm that actually really kind of devastated this place. There were bulldozers out on the beach. But we were doing our beach cleanups. The people are wonderful, these villages. An Irish team member was running through one of the villages, and someone popped their head out and said hi, and he said hi back. Invited him in with his family, sit down, have a coffee or have a little local beverage. And it's a very friendly country. And the final thing I'll say is I met the former CEO of Oman Sail, was very high up in the government, head of military operations in the country for about 30 years. Serious individual. And I met him this morning. Really wonderful. He knew a lot about Newport, where I came from, because of the Naval War College there. And very friendly, and to have leaders like that, men and women in this country that believe in sport, believe in what sport can do for cross-cultural relationships. I mean, we don't know what Oman's like. We can come up with opinions or what the news tells us until we come out and hang here with a bunch of Omanis like the other places in the world we go to. And I think that's the power and the beauty of sport. And man, this place is wonderful. I'm sure that there are parts that are a little bit rough around the edges, just like in the United States and our countries. But everyone's been just really dramatically friendly, and I'm not just saying that because I was expecting one thing or the other. It's just everyone's really, really wonderful.
Yeah, well, we're fans, and so much so that I'm coming back here in about 3 weeks' time for the Youth World Championships as well.
You should stay for a vacation.
Well, and if I was allowed to, I'd compete in the Radial Women's Worlds as well, which are going on in between now and the Youth Worlds. So they've got a really busy program of world-class events going on here, and it's been already very popular for world-class events over the last last 10 years, thanks to being hosted by Oman Sail. Very ambitious, very well organised setup here with Oman Sail. Anyway, that's enough of us being fans about Oman. Here's a little bit more about this amazing country.
بتراثنا الحضاري تفردنا، وبتاريخنا العريق ازدهرنا. ثقافتنا المتأصلة وموروثاتنا الأصيلة عكسنا ارتباطنا بالبيئة والمجتمع اللي تجسد من خلالها تفاصيل عاداتنا وتقاليدنا، من لبسنا وفنوننا الشعبية، احتفالاتنا، عاداتنا وتقاليدنا. تعاهدنا نستمر في تجديد ولائنا كل عام. سلامنا وازدهارنا وحبنا وتسامحنا يزيد، وتبقى أنت وطننا اللي ما مثلك وطن. أنا عماني وفخري بلادي.
طاقة جعلت منا كيانا واحد
وحافزا
واسما
إلى مزيد من الرقي والتطوير،
جمع قرونا من التاريخ التليد وشاهدا على أعوام من التلاحم والتكاتف انحنت له كل الصعاب وسطرنا بعده أجمل إنجازاتنا، وهنا خطونا خطواتنا الأكبر. ومثل أي شيء إذا اتحد يكون أقوى بعطائنا، بقيمنا الماجدة الراسخة. كلما دعينا للبذل في ساحة الميدان نكون أولا، نحيط الجميع بعناية، نصنع حلولا تفيد المجتمع. تفاصيل هي أولى اهتماماتنا، بكل ما أوتينا من شغف وطموح واتحاد وقوة. اليوم هو انعكاسات الغد المشرق.
إن شراكة المواطنين في صناعة حاضر البلاد ومستقبلها
ذلك المستقبل الذي لطالما عملنا لأجله.
نتفاعل معه فنؤثر فيه ونتأثر به.
نراه في منتجاتنا بكل فخر، في مواردنا البشرية الكفء، في مشاريعنا التي ننافس نغير بها المعالم. هي طاقة لعماننا بلا حدود.